Ladies and what a great start, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BF Tailgate. My name is Steve Mathis, host of the Bills Guys podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. I am joined, as always, by myself to set the stage with myself. I am here solo, leading you off, kicking you off for the first 15 minutes before we are joined by Casey and Kyle Knapp for the fantasy show. And I'll tell you what, guys, we got a question right off the bat here from Adam Brown. Is Josh Norman playing? By all accounts, Josh Norman is playing today. So that's actually going to be really interesting and something that we're going to talk about over the course of the pregame today. The Oakland Raiders, you know, they're very much a West Coast offense. It's going to be a lot of Josh Jacobs. It's going to be a lot of underneath stuff. And for the Buffalo Bills to have success today, I think they're going to have to keep everything in front of them. And one of the things I think that Josh Norman might have a better job doing than Levi Wallace, wrapping up tackling, and not to mention jumping routes. So these are some things that I think that Josh Norman could have success with as the Buffalo Bills take on the Oakland Raiders today. So we got a full house in here. I appreciate everyone. Someone says, are you in Vegas? I am unfortunately not in Vegas. So the coronavirus, which is another part of our pregame show today too, because, you know, a dark cloud looms over the NFL today as we get excited for this Bills-Raiders game. We don't really know what the future of this season holds. Are there going to be games next week? Are the Bills going to play next week? So there's a lot of question marks in that. But someone says, are you in Vegas? I was supposed to be in Vegas. We were supposed to be in Vegas doing a live show for the draft. And we were supposed to be in Vegas for this game. Buffalo Fanatics was supposed to have a presence in Sin City for both of these games, or for both the game and the draft, but unfortunately we're not. I am in Phoenix, so it is 6:45, my time right now. But people in the comment section are right. I do need some coffee to wake up this morning. But someone says, is the game in Vegas? Yes, the game is in Las Vegas. Did I say Oakland Raiders again? All right. Someone says, do I think Josh Norman is going to get a pick today? That's a great question. This defense is sorely in need of some turnovers. They certainly could have used a turnover in the second half last week when guys like Jared Goff were moving the ball on them. So I don't know if Josh Norman's going to get a turnover today, but I do think he's more likely to get a turnover than a guy who had a pick last week in Levi Wallace. So it is definitely nice to have him back in the lineup with our defense having the struggles that they did last week. All right, let's get into it. Let's set the stage. We only got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes here before Casey and Kyle join us to talk fantasy. So let's take a look at the injury report. And the injury report is to the Buffalo Bills' advantage this week. There are only, two real Buffalo Bills on the injury report. Delshon Phillips is out, but he's a reserve linebacker. We're talking Zach Moss with his toe injury. I don't think Zach Moss is going to play today, guys. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to give him another week of rest, mostly because I think the game plan today is going to involve a lot of this guy right up here, Josh Allen, and him throwing the football. So I don't think you're going to see Zach Moss today. I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Devin Singletary, and I think TJ Yeldon will be active for the second week in a row. I think the Buffalo Bills will rest up Zach Moss in his toe. And the other one who came out of the injury report late, he was fine all week, got hurt in practice on Friday, is Mario Addison. So that should be really interesting. The Bills didn't call up anyone from the practice squad like Mike Love or Brian Cox. So I think there's a good chance Addison goes. If he doesn't, it's real simple. It's just a heavier rotation for Jerry Hughes, and it's a heavier rotation for Trent Murphy, and then guys like AJ Epinesa, who the Pullout King already says AJ gets a strip sack today. AJ Epinesa and Daryl Johnson get a bigger run in the rotation at defensive end. So on the injury front from the Buffalo Bills, a lot of banged up players. The injury report was a mile long this week, but only two of them end up questionable and one ends up out by the end of the week. So that's a good sign for the Buffalo Bills. Whereas the Las Vegas Raiders, my goodness, this injury report. So let's take a look at this injury report for the did I say Los Angeles Raiders? The Las Vegas Raiders. I am struggling this morning. I do need my coffee. But let's look at this injury report. It is a mile long. Out of the game, Richie Incognito, former Buffalo Bill, not playing. I believe he was put on IR this week, so he's out. John Simpson's going to be starting in his place at right guard. That's a guy that the Buffalo Bills are going to need to attack today with Ed Oliver and Quentin Jefferson. Take advantage of John Simpson, the young offensive guard in that Oakland Raiders offensive line. So that's an injury you're going to look out for. Richie Incognito out. Damon Arnett, the rookie first-round pick, broke his thumb, tried to play, broke it again. So he is out, and he's going to be out for indefinitely for the Oakland Raiders. Oh, I am struggling this morning. The Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to start saying Raiders from now on. So they have a pretty good corner in Trayvon Mullen, who's young. And I think Stephon Diggs can take advantage of Trayvon Mullen. But then you got Nevin Lawson on the other side now, who's also dealing with an ankle injury. He ended up not getting a designation this week, but he was limited in practice this week with an ankle injury. So Nevin Lawson, all of 5'9", Gabe Davis can have some fun with him, and his 6'2", 220-pound frame. And John Brown can have some fun with him. So another guy who ended up on the injury report for the Raiders this week was Jonathan Abraham, the safety. The Raiders have big, bulky safety. So the Bills, Diggs, Brown, Davis should be able to get over the top on these corners and these safeties, and we should see air raid Josh Allen today. That's one of the other takeaways from this week's injury report that I'm noticing. And last but not least, the wide receivers. Bryan Edwards out. Henry Ruggs probably out. The Raiders are down to, it's going to be on the boundary. It's going to be Nelson Aguilar and Zay Jones. And in the slot, it's going to be Hunter Renfrow. You're going to see a lot of 12 personnel from the Oakland Raiders today. Jason Witten, Foster Moreau, Darren Waller. You might see Darren Waller in the slot. You're going to see a ton of different ways for the Oakland Raiders. But the theme for the Oakland Raiders today is going to be a lack of down the field speed. Nelson Aguilar is all they have to stretch the field. Hunter Renfrow ain't stretching the field. Zay Jones ain't stretching the field. Darren Waller, I guess you can consider a field stretcher from the middle. But that's a different story. He's a tight end. You're probably going to look to double him with a safety and Matt Milano. Play some solid zone defense on him. Don't let him find the holes in the middle of the defense. Make sure Tremaine Edmonds is getting his hands up. There's a whole bunch of things you're going to have to do to combat Darren Waller. But these wide receivers ain't scaring nobody. There are people sitting Kyle Woolston laughing. We're all laughing today, Kyle, at what the Oakland Raiders have to throw out there at wide receiver. So, at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills defensive approach with guys like Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs out, it seems very simple to me. Yep. Did you see him stretch the field in Buffalo, Randy? I mean, he didn't stretch the field in Buffalo. He hasn't done it. Like, just speed doesn't equate to being able to stretch the field. So, Zay Jones has struggled to get down the field. He's struggled to get open down the field. And when you have a corner like Trey White, or you have a corner like Josh Norman or Levi Wallace, I have full confidence in them to be able to cover a guy like Zay Jones down the field. Zay Jones, his speed, his 4.4 speed has never really translated to the National Football League. He struggled to separate off the line. He struggled to find holes in defenses. So this is a guy who struggled his whole career. So hopefully he doesn't find it. He doesn't put it all together today. It should be really interesting to see what we have. So when you look at what the Buffalo Bills need to do on defense today, I'm really feeling pretty confident the Buffalo Bills are going to blow this team out. I really am. I think that this could easily be a rout if our run defense shows up, because it's going to happen, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's going to happen. Whatever. It's going to happen. They're the Oakland Las Vegas Raiders. So at the end of the day, when I look at it on offense, it's got to be air raid Allen, right? We're going to have to go over the top of these corners, over the top of these safeties. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, watching Josh Allen toss the football around today, because I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders really have what it takes to stop the Buffalo Bills. And the biggest issue that you're going to have is the Raiders' big O-line, and Josh Jacobs worries me against our defense. That worries me too, Mike Moo. That worries me too. Now, that's why I say on defense, I think what our approach needs to be on defense needs to be the approach we took to the New England Patriots last year. Last year, when we played Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, it was very much, let's keep everything in front of us. Let's focus on stopping the run. Let's force some third downs. And then when we get on third downs, let's make sure we're sending a creative blitz. We're forcing a change of possession. That's sort of the game plan that they brought against Tom Brady and the Patriots last year. And they had a lot of success in that first game. Bring that same game plan to the Las Vegas Raiders. Take it out to Vegas with you. More A.J. Klein than Teron Johnson. Stack the box. Do everything you can to stop Josh Jacobs. And then in the secondary, just keep everything in front of you. Let Derek Carr dink and dunk. Let him do it. And then on third downs, tighten up. Because they're not going to be able to get over the top of you. They're not. It's just not going to happen. If they beat us deep today, something went terribly, terribly, terribly wrong because they don't have that kind of weaponry on this offense. The offense for the Raiders is underneath yards after catch, yards after contact. So if we can keep everything in front of us, if we can stack the box, if we are good against the run, if we wrap up tackling, we will be fine on defense. The only issue is letting this Oakland team chew the clock, letting them milk the clock. If we let them control possession, we could get into some trouble. But I really do think this defense wakes up this week. I think we bring that New England style approach where we keep everything in front of us. We shut down the run. I agree. We can't play prevent. We got to be more aggressive than we were last week against the Los Angeles Rams. We got to be more aggressive. And I think Josh Norman is going to help us be more aggressive. I think that's something that's going to help us be more aggressive. But at the end of the day, I'm predicting the Buffalo Bills are going to win this game big. I think we're going to score in the 30s again. I think you're going to see Josh Allen push 400 yards. This Oakland defense doesn't scare me. The Oakland secondary doesn't scare me. If you look at that Oakland team, they've been underperforming up front. I think they have a pretty good front with Farrell and with Hankins and with Collins and with Crosby and Littleton and Kwiatkowski's probably back this week. They have names in that front seven. They got some names and they've got some talent there. They've been underperforming what they're capable of. So don't get me wrong. I like the future of the Las Vegas Raiders, but right now that defense doesn't scare me. Their front seven isn't doing their job. I think if we can throw to set up the run, Devin Singletary can get some chunk plays on them. I don't think they're going to put much pressure on Josh Allen. And if they can't put pressure on Josh Allen, I don't think the secondary is going to hold up. They have two big box safeties in Harris and Abrams. And if Abrams doesn't go, it's Heath. Okay, those are Jeff Heath. Those are some big safeties, some big bulky box safeties that ain't dropping back into center field like a Micah Hyde does. So Josh Allen should be able to throw the ball on this football team all day. They should be able to throw on this team all day. They should be able to have their way with this team in the air, which should help them set up the run, which should help them push 30 points today or 30-plus points like we've been doing. We don't get 24-plus points today, we failed miserably. And the only way I don't see that happening is either, the Bills were out too late at the casino last night, which I don't think we're going to see from a Sean McDermott team in the COVID era. The NFL's got these guys on lockdown. Or the Bills defense allows the Las Vegas Raiders to control possession. And I don't think that they're going to let them control possession. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. I think you're going to see a lot of A.J. Klein today. I think this defense is going to wake up. The difference between the Bills teams of the past and the Bills teams of now, you look back at the Rex Ryan era. If the Buffalo Bills defense in the Rex Ryan era had the performance they had last week in the second half, all you would have heard this week was finger pointing. The defensive line saying it was the secondary's fault. The secondary saying it was the defensive line's fault. The coaching staff saying it was the players' faults. The players saying it was the coach's faults. That's what it would have looked like under Rex Ryan this week. That's not what you see the Buffalo Bills doing under Sean McDermott. They're getting in the film room. They're getting on the practice field. They're figuring out what went wrong. They're reflecting on their mistakes, and they're going to come out this week and they're going to fix it. And I feel pretty confident that this is a pretty good team to fix it against because yes, Josh Jacobs is very good. Yes, Jalen Richard can catch the balls out of the backfield. Yes, Darren Waller is a good player, and Hunter Renfrow can contribute every once in a while, but they just don't have the horses on that Oakland offense to do any real damage unless we let Josh Jacobs take over the game. And I just don't think it's going to happen. So that's pretty much what I got for you. We're still waiting for our boy Kyle Knapp in the waiting room, but Casey's ready to go. Casey's ready to talk some fantasy with you this morning. So what I'm going to do right now is, we got Knapp coming in. So what I'm going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to bid you adieu. I will be back at 11 o'clock to join Kyle to talk about some of his bold predictions for today's game and to start playing our favorite over-under games. And then we have a whole bevy of hosts coming at you for today's pregame. We have my man Dave Tilton, Adam Nannini, Mitch Brodeur will all be joining us in the 11 and 12 o'clock hours. And then from 3:15 to 4:15, the Hump Day guys, Joe Miller and Jay Spence will be here. So we have you covered all day. Believe me, it will be a lot better than my first half hour where my lack of coffee caused a heck of a lot of confusion to you guys in the comment section. So thank you guys, and I will see you guys at 11 o'clock.
This is Fast Fanatics. Everything you need to know about this week's game in under 2 minutes. The betting lines favor the 3-0 Buffalo Bills as they head to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Bills are 3-point favorites and the over-under is 52.5. Weather won't be a factor this week as the game will be taking place inside an oversized Roomba, otherwise known as Allegiant Stadium. The Raiders will be short a handful of players. Out is starting corner and first-round pick Damon Arnett, fellow rookie and starting wide receiver Brian Edwards, and starting left guard and former Buffalo Bill Richie Incognito. Unlikely to play for the Raiders is starting right tackle Trent Brown and starting wide receiver Henry Ruggs. Game time decisions include starting safety Jonathan Abraham and linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski. On the Bills' end, a much shorter list. Out is reserve linebacker Delshon Phillips. Questionable are running backs Zach Moss and defensive end Mario Addison. If Moss can't go, expect another heavy workload for Devin Singletary with TJ Yeldon sprinkled in. If Addison can't go, expect the snap counts for Jerry Hughes and Trent Murphy to rise, while AJ Epinesa and Darryl Johnson rotate in behind. Keys to the game for the defense, stack the box. Last week, the Rams ran all over the Buffalo Bills, who were running strictly nickel defense. So we should see more AJ Klein this week and less Teron Johnson. The Buffalo Bills should also take the sort of Tom Brady approach from last season. Keep everything underneath. The Raiders don't have a lot of playmakers who can make plays down the field. They rely on yards after the catch. So concentrate on the run, keep everything in front of you, and make sure that you are tackling. Keys to the game for the offense, we need to see Air Raid Allen again. The Josh Allen that we saw against the Miami Dolphins. The Buffalo Bills should be looking to throw the ball to set up the run. Oakland is dinged up at corner, and they have some big, bulky safeties. Wide receivers like Gabe Davis, John Brown, and Stephon Diggs should be able to take the top off this defense, and Allen has to connect. By getting the ball down the field, it should set up the run game for Devin Singletary.
Good morning. What is going on?
How you doing?
You've got setting the stage all over your face.
There we go. I'm live now. Here we go.
My goodness. Geez, I woke up 15 minutes ago, right? I don't know what was going on. Last night I was like, hey, I've got to get up at this time, blah, blah, blah. I set my alarms. But I set my alarms for I'm an hour behind, right? Or ahead. I don't know how time works anymore. Yeah, behind. There it is. I appreciate you.
I got you.
So I set my alarms. I set it for 8:45, 9, 9:15, 9:30. I was like, I'm going to be up. I'm going to be watching the pregame show, watching Judge. I'm going to drink my coffee. Nope. Woke up at 8:45. Saw your tweet saying, catch us live. And I just started yelling bad words. And my wife said, what is going on? And I jumped out of bed. I quickly made my coffee. It's here. I'm ready to go. We've got a big show today. And as you can tell, there's no boxes behind me. And the reason for that is that they're in front of me. In fact, I'm using my laptop as a it's on a box, right? So you can't see that I'm moving. Okay. So it's going to be a good day today.
I'm ready. Let's do this. So, real quick, I kind of
Okay.
want to give a precursor to everything we're doing.
All right.
We are going to wait to do the startums and situms until like the second half of the show. We do have a couple things we want to cover first. So, if you want to send any stardom and situms in, I would wait until probably maybe like the second half-ish of the show once we get into that, because Casey and I were talking. There are a couple things that we did want to go over before we got into that, but we do want to make sure we get into that. So bring them when you do bring them, but just wait a second before you do.
And what we want to get into first is we want to get into the spreads of the games real quick. So we want to talk about Bills -3. I want to talk about a couple of must-bet games, and then Knapp has some player props that he wants to go over, right? So let's just dive into it, right, as these comments start flooding in. Bills -3. What an awesome spread, right? What an awesome spread. Back in May, maybe April, I saw this. I actually liked the Raiders +3 when I saw this game, right? But
I heard you say that on your show yesterday. So I don't like numbers. I don't like spreads that are just straight up numbers. That always makes me uncomfortable. I like this spread because I think like the Bills should just blow the Raiders out of the water. But
yeah,
normally spreads like this where you don't have that 0.5 in there, where you're not in between points, normally that worries me a little bit, because then you can obviously push, and I don't like doing that. But with it being so like it's such a small spread, I'm super comfortable with it. I would take the Bills to cover. Just gonna go with that right away.
Look, I was listening to Steve while I was half asleep 2-3 minutes ago. And Steve was talking about everybody that's out. Damon Arnett is out. I mentioned in my write-up for the spreads this week that, the Raiders needed some more attitude in that secondary. They needed a star in that secondary outside of Jonathan Abrams, who is questionable for this game, right? So you start looking at the secondary, do we expect Josh Allen to continue his hot streak, of 300-yard passing and a couple of touchdowns? Yeah, we should.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? The secondary is taking a hit. And then we look on the offensive side of the ball, right? You've got two of the starting wide receivers out in Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards, who have not necessarily been carrying this offense, because that goes to Darren Waller, right? But now you're having to exclusively rely on Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs, right? So if the Bills take away the run, if they stack the box and they take away the run, and then all you're focused on is Darren Waller, I'm pretty sure, right, that they could probably eliminate him as well and give Derek Carr a lot of trouble. Yeah.
It's a whole lot easier to eliminate two guys when there's like nobody else. Like if the Bills somehow, like if things go wrong, you don't want things to go wrong because Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs beat you.
Yep.
If things are going to go wrong, it's because like the guys who you don't expect to win just played out of their minds. So I don't see how the Bills can't key in on those two guys, and maybe not like completely stop them, but they got to be able to slow them down enough.
Yeah.
Be able to, and I think this is actually a really interesting comment, keeping it on the spread. Can we bring this one up here? There we go. Nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry.
I think so, by the way. I don't think so.
I not yet. But I wanted to go to this one. Tease Raiders to 9. I think that's interesting. And I don't know if he's saying like the
Raiders +9.
Yeah, but I actually don't mind doing this the other way around, where you increase the Bills. Like I wouldn't mind teasing on the Bills side of the spread.
So tease. So you want to tease the Bills to 9, right?
Yeah, I want to. I mean, it's going to decrease the odds. You're going to get a bigger payout. I like the idea of doing that because I'm so comfortable with the -3. Just like it should. I'm not going to say there's no way, but like, come on, with all the injuries, like the Bills have to be able to put up 30 points, and like the Raiders don't have any good wide receivers right now. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself with this. Maybe you got to talk me off a ledge here. But
look,
I'm comfortable with like if you want to increase it to like 6, Bills minus 6.5 or 5.5 or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd be comfortable teasing it all the way up to that.
See, I'm not. No, and it has nothing to do with the Bills, ability to put up points. It's just when I see the odds, I don't want to increase the odds, right?
You're comfortable. You like keeping them where they're at.
Yeah. Because I'm just some random dude, right? And Vegas puts these up. These guys, like, they study that crap, right? And when I see you teasing anything, right, sure, you can get a bigger payday out of it, right? But at the same time, no, I'm going to trust these guys. I'm going to go for it, right? I like the -3. I think we easily win by -3. If you want to tease it, I would go ahead, but -3 is good odds. The Bills have yet to lose against the spread so far this season. Sure, it's only week 4, but I like -3, and I'm going to take -3 all day long.
Yeah, I think real quick, I think our takes on that go back to one of our previous conversations, all the way back from when you were on the podcast on Nat Knows Bills.
Okay.
When we were talking about how, like, you're comfortable with everything, I see this big spread. I see
you want to take it.
240. I want to take it. Yeah. And that, sometimes it gets me in a little trouble, but this is one that I would definitely be comfortable with.
So I had a couple games that were must-bet games, right? So if you listen to the podcast, it's out now. It comes out on Saturdays, and that's the Buff City podcast. I had a couple of games that I really liked. Obviously, I loved Bills -3, but I also liked Atlanta, the Falcons, plus 7.5. And I've been getting killed by it. Like, I've been getting attacked, right? I've had so many people text me and be like, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Atlanta sucks. And look, here's the thing, guys.
Offense doesn't.
Their offense doesn't, right? And I don't care about their defense. I don't care if they lose in the fourth quarter. I don't care. I don't care, right? You start looking at the history of it. Atlanta has lost by a combined 5 points in the last 2 weeks, right? And all they have to do is come within 7 points of Green Bay, and I win money. Like, Jesus Christ, yeah, that's probably going to happen, right? Why am I getting killed? Why are y'all coming at me, right? PFF.
So I actually have Green Bay covering.
Well, and see, I think why a lot of people are coming at me is because they see it as money line. I don't care who wins straight up, right? They're not the Bills, right? I don't care if they win or they lose, right? I just want them to cover, which means I want them to come within 7 points of Green Bay, which is so easy that they could do that, right? I can't tell you how many people have texted me and be like, Atlanta's not going to win. It's like, I don't care if they win. I don't care. I just want them to come within 7 points, right? So I like Atlanta +5. You've got Green Bay.
Yeah, I just
covering that game.
Atlanta, the way I see Atlanta, like, they have a great offense. They have a terrible defense. I know Green Bay has some guys out, especially now that they lost Lazard. Lazard's out. I don't know if Devontae Adams is going. If somebody in the chat could check that for us, that'd be kind of helpful. But I trust in Aaron Rodgers so much, and that offense has just been on fire. And I know their defense isn't great, but I just don't trust the Falcons. I can't do it. They're doing what the Bills are doing, except for instead of winning the games at the end, they're losing. And when you do that against Aaron Rodgers, that puts you in a really tough spot because he can pile on the points quick.
Yeah. So I don't bet against Aaron in prime time. I'm not betting against Aaron. Look, he's going to win all day long. Atlanta just has to come within 7 points. That's what I'm just trying to tell people. Atlanta just has to come within 7 points. Julio and Ridley banged up this week. They'll both go. They'll both start. They'll both play. Ridley will get another 100-yard game. We'll be good there, or they'll be good there. They're not going to win. Dan Quinn's going to get fired, right? But they're going to cover. They're going to get within 7 points. So I'm just going to go over. I've got a big parlay that I'm doing, right? And I don't know
me some parlays. Let's do this.
I don't know if I sent you this, right?
You didn't,
but I'm going to read it out to you. In fact, my boss at work is doing this parlay, right, with me. I'm hoping he wins so I can get Sundays off. So everybody, cross your fingers and pray for your boy. So I've got Atlanta +7.5, right? I've got Seattle -6 against Miami, right? Which
they should be able to cover that. Their defense is going to be the tough part, but like They're going to put up points against Miami. It's going to happen. Russell Wilson's just going crazy, so I got no problem with that.
Cincinnati minus 2.5. Cincinnati has yet to not cover, right? I love the Bengals this year in gambling. I've been betting with them all season long, and they have yet to do me wrong. So I've got them against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's Cincinnati minus 2.5. Buffalo minus 3, which we already talked about. I mean, come on, that's a given for me. Baltimore minus 14, right, against the Washington football team. And I've got Arizona minus 3.5 against Carolina.
I mean, I like those. I'm not going to go as far as to say like fully can't lose in general, but like that's a solid spread of games there. If you pick, there's only one there that there's only one there that I told you like I disagree with, and it's not like I'm hard pressed like it's going like I'm definitely right. I just have more of a feeling one way or the other on the Atlanta game. Every single other game I loved, and I would even consider, and this might be me pushing it too far again.
Okay.
I would consider going Bengals. Just like I'd consider teasing that again because I like they got to get one. They've been so close, and I wouldn't tease it too much. Just maybe a little bit.
Well, I had Bengals minus 3 was what I liked. I liked Cincinnati. They've been covering the whole time, right? They have yet to let me down. This is the first week they've been favorite, so I'm excited about them. But yeah, they're gonna win that game.
They should
for sure. I mean, Joe Burrow's throwing it 105 times a game, so they're gonna win that game. But I put $20 down on that. Hopefully, we can win about $968, something like that. So
it'd be a nice little payday,
right? I'm moving. I need some cash. You know what I'm
saying? That's a good moving cash right there.
But that's what I like as far as must bets. The 3 games that are must bets is the Bills minus 3. I'm definitely betting on that game. That one seems like a no-brainer. Arizona minus 3.5 is also a no-brainer against Carolina. Arizona has a top 10 pass defense, and they're going up against Teddy Bridgewater, who seems like a pretty average quarterback so far this year. So, yeah, I'm going with Arizona minus 3.5. They should win that game. And then, of course, Baltimore minus 14 against the Washington football team. So, if you want to parlay and you just want to do 3 games, you don't want to do the 16 that I did, go ahead and just do those 3 games. I'm pretty sure you're going to win some money on that one. So, yeah, those are my must-bet games of the week.
I like it. I wanted to – so instead of doing the player props like we had talked about, I think Steve might be doing that with me at the 11 o'clock hour.
Come on, Steve.
I think that's we did a little bit of that last week, so I don't want to steal that thunder.
Okay.
But I do have a question for you regarding my fantasy team, and I actually sent you the screenshot of my team yesterday, so we can look over this together. So I'm in a dynasty league. We're doing 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Like it's a big roster. I got an 8-man league. It's just a small league with some of my buddies from high school, but my team is banged up. Like. Just injured all over the place, right? I got Michael Thomas out. I got Alan Lazard out. I got Mike Williams out. I got Juju's not playing this week because obviously they got rescheduled. Cortland Sutton's out. So I am hurting at wide receiver right now. And what I'm struggling with is for a flex position. I had to really dig deep on the waiver wire here. I picked up Mo Alley Cox, tight end. But I'm also considering, do I play Josh Reynolds from the Rams or do I go bold and do I pull up Gabriel Davis, and throw him in the game? Because like the Raiders have nothing in their secondary. And it's not like it's a guarantee that he's going to go off or anything like that, or even that he's going to get a lot of targets, but he feels like that boom or bust kind of guy to me.
Okay, here's the thing. I like Gabriel Davis. Manny, I don't think he's in the comments yet, is not a big Gabriel Davis in fantasy. But I was breaking it down, and I talked to Gage. He does injury reports, and he's a physical therapist or something in the medical field, and he works for Buffalo Fanatics. And I asked him earlier this week, do you trust the calf injury on a wide receiver? And he said no. He was like, there's a very easily you can re-aggravate that again in game time. Well, guess what injury John Brown has? It's that calf muscle, right? That's why I like Gabe Davis, right? So even if John Brown is a go, right, John Brown's whole game is he's a speedster, right? He can catch and all that other stuff, but he is a speedster, and you can't argue that, right? And if you're trying to use speed and you're trying to use the burst off the line of scrimmage, what muscle are you using? Well, probably your calf muscle, right? I'm no doctor, but that's what I'm thinking, right? So he won't be nearly as effective as he normally is, regardless of if he's 100% or not right now. I doubt he is. I doubt you're going to be 100% off of calf muscle in 1 week. That's why I'm thinking Gabriel Davis is going to get a lot of receptions this game, or a lot more receptions than normal.
He should get a lot of play, and he's been getting playing time.
Yes.
Like they're lining him up.
Yes.
The Bills are running 4 wide receiver sets. I don't remember the percentage of it, but it's a lot right now. They're one of the tops in the leagues.
It's the highest in the league. It's about 46%.
Yeah, so I fully expect that he's going to be able to get a couple of extra targets, especially if John Brown's not at 100%. Because you're going to want to protect John Brown, make sure that he's not re-aggravating that injury, extending his time of being limited. Like, it makes sense to probably play him a little less, not just not play him at all, but play him a little less. Give Gabe Davis those. I keep doing it. Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, he's a man.
I got it. Yeah, it's Gabriel. I got to keep remembering that it's Gabriel. But he should have, in my opinion, an opportunity to get double-digit points at least, which in this situation, that's all I'm looking for, is somebody to get me double digits, because, man, my team is hurting right now.
I think he does. I think he gets you about 10 to 12 points. I like him. He's going to – he got 80 yards last week, 4 receptions, 80-something yards. This week, who's covering him, right? I mean –
yeah, that's
who's covering
I don't
him.
know.
So, I mean, and I like Cole Beasley as well. You know, and everybody, Manny was arguing with me about how, Cole Beasley got John Brown's targets, and then Gabriel Davis got Cole Beasley targets because John Brown was out. But I don't think that's necessarily the case, right? Because Josh Allen has a really good rapport with Cole Beasley, right? And now he's starting to trust Gabriel Davis. We all saw that long bomb, the corner route to the sideline where, Josh put it up to where only Gabriel Davis could catch it. And what Gabriel Davis do? He came down with it.
Toe drag swag.
Drag swag. Yeah, exactly. So he did that. And what did Josh Allen do after the game? There's a little thing that not many people noticed. He pointed at him, right? Give him the thumbs up, right? That right there, you're building trust in that, right? So is Gabriel Davis going to go off and get you 155 points this week in fantasy? No, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's a good, solid flex position, right? And with you and your hurting, I like Gabriel Davis more than I like Mo Alley Cox right now, right?
Yeah, he's another boomer bust type of guy too. So that's where I was just looking. I'm literally just searching right now.
Yeah, you're just searching. Go Gabriel Davis.
All right.
You won't regret it. I promise you. I am banging the table or banging the moving box that I am sitting on. You've got to go Gabriel Davis. I really believe Gabriel Davis is going to be all right.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to roll with that. So let's transition now to our startums or situms, and I'm going to keep the startums or situms. Just no. But for our startums and situms, let's do must start for the Bills. And then we're also going to do a must sit because everybody can't go off. So,
all right, who's on the Buffalo Fanatics page? All right, who's in charge of them?
So Casey, give me your must start for the Bills. Obviously, outside of Josh Allen, because he is at this point must start every single week in fantasy. Doesn't matter who the Bills are playing against. He's at least going to get you enough points to be worth starting. If not more, which he's done, obviously. He's the number 2 fantasy quarterback right now. So outside of Josh Allen, who is your must start?
Can I answer Nathan Jennings' question real quick?
Yeah.
Nathan Jennings asked, and I'm sure we'll get it up there in the screen in 2.5 seconds. He says, Gabriel Davis or Robbie Anderson, right? Robbie Anderson's going against the top 10 pass defense in the league, and Gabriel Davis is going against the Marcus Joyner, who hasn't been good since Florida State. So I'm gonna go ahead and start Gabriel Davis on that one. Robbie Anderson, 9 times out of 10, any other week, yes, probably, but he's going against a really, really tough pass defense. So start Gabriel Davis. You won't regret it. You can find me on Twitter at Read'emAndWeep3. If I'm wrong, you can hunt me down. DMs are always open. My must start for the Buffalo Bills is Motor. Yeah, it's Motor. Devin Singletary, Motor. And the reason being is because you've heard me say it, right? I feel like I don't have to say it even more, but like I want Motor used in the pass game.
Yes,
I want him used in the pass game.
He should be. He's so good out of the backfield.
Yes, he is, and he's twitchy. You know what I'm saying? He's twitchy. So you're talking about 4 receptions, 50 yards out of the backfield last week. Okay, and that was against the Rams. So and then he had 13 touches. And then close to, I think, 80 yards on the ground. So he was doing really good on the ground, but they also utilized him in the pass game. I think they should do that again. I'm expecting a big day out of Motor Singletary today. I see they use him in that Kansas City type offense, you know, how they utilize their running backs. Devin Singletary has the makes to be a good all-around back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I see him being used that way. And I don't know, man. You guys start Motor. He's going to have a really good day against that Raiders defense because once again, who's stopping them? And I like the Raiders defense. Here in about 2-3 years, they're going to have a really good defense. But right now, too many injuries.
Yeah, they're just not there right now.
Yeah, they're not there right now. So
for anybody who hasn't listened to the little 20-minute preview that Joe Miller from the Overreaction, Joe Miller, the voice of the Overreaction podcast, he put out a 20-minute preview this morning for the game today. Mm-hmm. And he actually said in his preview that he's looking for Devin Singletary to have a big day. And I think he said something like 90 yards rushing, 60 or 70 yards receiving, plus maybe 1 or 2 TDs. Like, it's possible because he's so good once he gets out of space. And it's not like he's going to have like that 150, 160-yard rushing day. When you combine it, you're not looking for just one singular stat line. You want to be able to combine that for running backs.
Yep.
And Motor's the type of guy who can do that.
Yep. 100%. And I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay.
Yeah.
Who says that running backs have to get over 100 yards in a game for it to be, you know, a good game for them, right? How about all-purpose yards? When you're putting up 90 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and then about 60, yards through the air, like, yeah, absolutely, do that every single time. You're going to give me about 17, 18, 20 points in a standard PPR league. Yeah, I'm starting Motor Singletary 100%.
And to Marco's point here, Singletary had 3 TDs all last year. He's not. I will say this. The most unlikely part of Joe's scenario was probably the 2 TDs. I believe he said 2 TDs. That's probably the most unlikely part. But once again, you get him in space. He has the potential to break out and get into the end zone. So it's not that last year he only had 3 TDs, so he can't do it. He can't do better this year.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, sure, he only had 3 touchdowns last year, but is he supposed to stop at the goal line if he has 2?
Right.
And Mark, I'm not taking anything away from you. And yes, as Bills fans, we are very, reserved. We don't want to get too high, right? Because we don't want to crash back down. We've been let down so many times it's not even funny, right? So we don't want to go through the roof and we want to be logical, but I promise you I am thinking logical, right? And that's why I like fantasy football and that's why I like gambling, because you have to have a logical mindset to that, right? Do I see Singletary going for 3 touchdowns this game? Absolutely not, right? But I could definitely see him getting one touchdown and having chances to get the other 2, right?
Yeah.
Does he get stopped at the goal line? Maybe. Who knows, right? But he's not a bad bet to start in fantasy football. So,
yeah, I like that. I like that one. All right, I'm going to give you my must start. So my must start is going to be Dawson Knox. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that.
Every single week you're starting Dawson Knox.
I'm not doing that again. No, I'm just going to keep it real logical, right? Yeah. My must start is Stephon Diggs. He had average day. He had an average day. It is a cop-out. But, I don't care if it's a cop-out. It's the right answer.
Yeah, you're right.
Because he's the number 1 receiver. He had an average day against the Rams, against a top-tier corner where he put up 4 catches, 49 yards, a touchdown.
1 touchdown.
He still got his points. And now that he's going against a bunch of pretty much nobodies in the Raiders secondaries for the Raiders corners, because they don't have their top guy right now with Damon Arnett, he's going to have all the possibilities in the world to just have a day for himself. So I know it's a cop-out. I know it's the easy answer. I still like. I mean, I like Gabe Davis from a previous conversation, but
look,
if I'm saying who's a must start
outside of Josh Allen, it's Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, it's Stephon Diggs, and I was gonna go Singletary. I was hoping you didn't do it because that's who I wanted to go with.
Well, I was thinking Stephon Diggs, but I'm also not going to take the easy way out.
No, you're going to put that on me?
Yeah. Nap, I feel like you don't read my fantasy articles on thebuffalofanatics.com.
I wait until
I
we
just
do
feel
this
like,
show to read people's articles. I don't like reading people's articles. So I actually talked about this with Steve.
Okay, let's talk about it because I write some funny articles. I
actually wait to read articles until after I do content with somebody if I'm doing content because I don't want to know what they're thinking.
Okay.
Before I talk with them, I want to make sure that it's something that's like a wait and see. Because Steve, when he came on the podcast earlier in the offseason, we actually had a similar conversation where he was like, "Yeah, I just wrote this partially because of our conversation we're having now, but like I just wrote this and I was like, I didn't read it yet because I wanted to be surprised by what you said." So I wait. If I'm doing content with somebody, I wait to read their articles.
It's funny. In my articles, we're gonna get off on a tangent here in a little bit. I call out my friends. Right, because I do the fantasy football, right? So this week, I'm playing my best friend. Like it's rivalry week, right? He's the guy I'm going against, and I literally called out. I put his name of his fantasy team in my article, and he hasn't texted me and said, "Hey, what's this?" Right? So I know he hasn't read it yet. So, but yeah, dude, I call people out in it. Like one time I talked about my nephew eating dog food. So why aren't you reading my articles? Come on, man. How did you not see Croft was a must start last week? You guys got to step up your game. You know what? Yeah, I said it. Run it back. I said that Croft was going to get you 24 yards and 2 touchdowns, and y'all laughed at me, right? I said it, my man. Y'all just need to rewind the tape. I was here for it. No, but Singletary, look, the reason why we started talking about my article is because I said, are you worried about Stephon Diggs? Are you worried about him? Because he only put up 14 points. He got you 4 receptions, 49 yards, 1 touchdown. Only put up 14 points in a regular PPR league, right? Are you worried about him? No. And why should you be worried about him? Stephon Diggs is a must start every single week, right? Josh Allen, must start every single week. Until they prove you wrong, they're a must start every single week. And I can't reiterate that enough, right? Sure, Stephon Diggs doesn't have to do everything. And it kind of sucks when you turn around and you look at like Tyler Boyd putting up 29 points and you're like, well, now hold up. Stephon Diggs is a much better receiver than Tyler Boyd. But here's the thing. Who else is on that team besides Tyler Boyd? Okay. Auden Tate, right? AJ Green. But where's Auden Tate this year? Is he hurt? I don't know. I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm not keeping up with that as well. AJ Green has so many targets. He's just not catching it. He's getting old and that makes my heart sad, right? So it's Tyler Boyd's show. Right? It is. And that's why he's getting more points. Stephon Diggs is going to get you those points, but he's also going to share points with the John Browns, the Cole Beasleys, the Gabriel Davis, the Tyler Crofts, right? He's going to share those points. So, no, I'm not worried about Stephon Diggs. He's going to start every single week. And, yes, he's going to get you between the 14 to 20 points every single game. This game, though, yeah, Stephon Diggs is about to go off. Over 100 yards. He might have a multi-touchdown game, right? I could see that, especially because who's covering him?
Once again, like nobody. It's not like they're NFL talent players, but they're just not his level whatsoever. They're nowhere near his level of player. So I just don't see how he doesn't have like a great day where, I don't know, 8 catches, 120 yards, maybe a touchdown. Like that's the type of day I expect from him.
Yep. Guy from Toronto says, is DeAndre Hopkins playing today? Funny story about that. He put out a GIF last night of him laughing and said, fantasy owners wondering if I'm playing tomorrow. If I was a betting man, right, I would say he probably starts. DeAndre Hopkins is not somebody that you're going to sit, right? He's going to want to go 110% every single game, even if he has one leg.
Especially if he's putting out like a GIF teasing that, like you're not doing that if you're not going to play. That's something that's a big no. If you're not playing, you're not going to put anything out like that. You're going to let it come out in the injury report.
All right, guys, we're about halfway through the show. This is the point where we definitely want y'all to start asking questions about your fantasy team. Say, do I start this guy? Do I start this guy? I'm here for the GIF analyst. Look, I'm all about the GIFs. I feel like my GIF game is very underrated. While you're here, go ahead and smash that like button, right? Go ahead and smash that like button. We're up here for the pregame show. Go ahead and smash that like button and let us know how you go so we can start getting these questions rolling. So Honcho Skeet says, should I start Zach Moss? No.
He was going to be my must sit. Don't play him right now. It's not that he's a bad player because he should be a good football player. We saw what he was able to do in college. Hopefully he's able to get his feet under him and it translates into the NFL for the Bills now. But he's still young. He's only played in 2 games. And right now, Motor's the guy.
Motor's the guy.
Zach Moss might be the guy down the road. I don't know. But right now, Motor's the guy. Zach Moss, he's got to get his feet under him. He's still got that toe injury too, so we don't even fully know if he's going to play. So I would hold off on Zach Moss right now.
My man, I can't pronounce your name, and I apologize. Right? He said, "Oh, this is a fantasy show." Heck yeah, dude, it is. Let's talk fantasy football, guys. Let's get it going. Let's get it rocking and rolling. Oh, this is a fantasy show. Heck yeah, dude. Give me your lineup. We'll talk about it for a little bit. Let's see who's next.
We'll go to spin.
Yeah, all right.
Spin 0481. I like this one. Do you want to play 2 players who are on the same team if one of them's a kicker? I do this all the time too.
All the time. Yeah, I do it
I think
all the time.
The biggest question mark with this one right now is just you're risking that the game possibly isn't played. We don't know what's happening with that, so I'm not sure. I'm not going to make I can't make a determination on this one because we don't know what's going to happen. If they play the game, I'd play both of them. But that's tough because you're waiting until possibly Tuesday night.
Look, I'm not going to go on a tangent on COVID. There's a reason why the NFL has these procedures put in place. If they cancel this game, they're getting stupid with their procedures, right? If the Premier League in England, right, can have somebody test positive for COVID, sit him on the bench and continue to play the games, right, then why can't the NFL? If the MLB can do the same thing, right, why can't the NFL? If the NHL, who did not have any test positives, I'm pretty sure they would do the same thing. Why can't the NFL? I don't want to get into the COVID whatever. Let's just forget that COVID even exists and enjoy the joy that's in the world and just know that should I risk starting Kelsey and Butker? Yeah, absolutely you should. Yeah. I love that. Let's just keep rocking and rolling with it. Who is next? John Brown or Gallup? You know who I like. I love John Brown, right? But that calf muscle, it worries me, man. It makes me want to go and get a medical degree and figure out what's up, what's good, right? Anytime I've got a player who is on the injury report, I don't necessarily like starting him unless I have to, right? Because I want to see what is going on. And I'll take the hit, right? I'll take the hit if he puts up 25 points. I'll be like, my goodness, he's a freak of nature when it comes to his calf muscle. But I like Gallup. I like Gallup this time around. Who are the Cowboys playing real quick?
Let me double check that.
Because I know I didn't. The Browns. They're taking the Browns.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're taking the Browns. Yeah, Gallup.
Yeah,
Gallup. Yeah.
I mean, I would go with Gallup too. I think once again, this comes down to if John Brown is healthy. If we know John Brown is healthy, I'd probably go with John Brown. But with you not really being sure, I would go the other direction just to play it safe even because you don't want to have a guy who you're starting in your lineup. And then you find out, well, he's getting pulled 1 quarter in or halfway through the game just out of precautions.
He's going to be on a pitch count.
Yeah.
He should be on a pitch count.
He should be. Yeah. And there's also the possibility that the Bills are able to run up the score in the first half like they've done so far. Mm. And then if the defense holds and if they're able to continue and play consistent in the second half, then they're not passing the ball. Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about the third quarter. The third quarter gives me nightmares right now.
Yeah, it does.
But, I mean, if they're able to hold in the second half and they do have that big lead like a lot of people are expecting, then you're not getting second half points from John Brown, even if he does play. I see the Cowboys-Browns game as more of not necessarily a shootout because, the Browns play a different style of football right now. They're more of a rushing attack. But
which they should.
They should, and it's better for them to do that. But, the Cowboys – against the Browns, they should be able to trade drives back and forth. So even if it's a 24-24 game, there's enough possibility there that Gallup can get his points.
Yeah, for sure. And Gallup's a really good wide receiver. Shout out to Elliot, who said, I would give Brown another week. I think we ride Davis more until Brown can come back. Elliot, I feel like I haven't talked to you in months, dude. Where have you been? Welcome back to the show. I saw you in the comments. Welcome back. I agree. I think we do ride Davis, and I don't care what anybody says to me. Been getting flack for that all week too, but I like Gabriel Davis in this spot. who is next? Who's next on our fantasy?
I want to go to this one because I think this is actually an interesting conversation here. Starting Fitzmagic. So I'm the type of guy who I was really high on Wentz. I don't know what happened to him. I know he doesn't have receivers. Like he doesn't have anyone to throw to right now because like his guys are hurt. And this is a bit of a tangent. I want to go into this in a second, but like, do you think Wentz is in trouble like for his career? Are you seeing him go in that downward spiral? Do you think he can get it back together?
Here's the thing with Wentz. I love Wentz, right? But he reminds me a lot of Sam Darnold right now, right? Two really, really, really good quarterbacks, right? That their organization have done absolutely nothing to help them. Like, sure, Philly won a Super Bowl, okay? Great. How's that offensive line looking, right? Where's
he also wasn't the quarterback.
He also wasn't the quarterback, but he also
wasn't there on that end of the ride.
Correct, but he got them enough. He got them there. I think they were like, I'm sorry, I for some reason I want to say 14-2 at the time of his injury. That doesn't seem right at all. They were like 10-10. He won them enough games. He was
in the MVP conversation.
He was in the MVP, and that's the thing. He's a good quarterback, right? And he laid it all out on the line, right? And Philadelphia has not done anything to help him, right? And I feel bad for Carson Wentz, right? I like Carson Wentz. It's the same with Sam Darnold. I like Sam Darnold. Watching him play on Thursday night, I felt so bad for him because I see an organization ruining a quarterback's career before it even really gets off, right? And I was thinking, why is it Sam marching over to the sideline, throwing his helmet, right, and saying trade me? And Wentz had Reich, and that's true. Reich is a really good offense coordinator. Now he's a really good head coach. So I don't know. I like Wentz, and I just wish some organizations like their quarterbacks as much as I liked him. That's all.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that was a bit of a tangent. I'm with you. Play Fitzpatrick over Wentz if you have both of them. I think Fitzpatrick has the potential, especially against the Seahawks defense. We saw teams can put up some points on them. The Falcons passed the ball against the Seahawks. We saw the Cowboys do it last week where Dak put up 500-plus passing yards, I think. Or maybe it was like just a little under that or something. But, like,
yeah,
you can throw the ball against the Seahawks defense. And Fitzmagic is the type of guy who he's going to take chances. He might throw a couple picks trying to do it. But when that works out for him, when he does complete his passes and he gets the ball to his guys like Gesicki and Parker, Williams, like he has enough weapons. Not saying it's like crazy good or anything, but he's got enough to do some damage against a team that really does have kind of a weak secondary in terms of the passing game. Let's go to Elliot's comment here. TJ Hawkinson or Gronk?
I don't like Gronk. It has nothing. It has nothing to do with the Patriots and Bills rivalry. It has nothing to do with Gronk being a piece of shit and jumping on Trey White's head. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with Gronk being the ultimate Chad. It has nothing to do with that. It's just he's getting old, man. You know, he's getting old, and TJ Hawkinson, his ceiling is so much higher than Gronk's right now. I like TJ Hawkinson. I like him in that Detroit offense. And I feel bad for Detroit, but TJ Hawkinson is a really good tight end. If you're hurting and if you have to go either TJ Hawkinson or Gronk, I'm starting TJ Hawkinson until Gronk proves that, like, hey, you can still do it, right? And right now he's not. You know, right now
he's not. He looks like he hasn't played football in a year. That's the baseline for Gronk is he just looks like he hasn't played. And Hawkinson, I mean, he's in for the scoring that I have in my league right now. He has 16.6 points, 10.2, and then 9.3. And I know that's going down each week, and that's a little concerning if it continues to do that. Obviously, that's not good.
Yeah.
But he's the type of guy who, like, he's a good tight end. They want to get him the ball. And if he's getting 8+ points, that's worth playing as a tight end right now because tight ends really, like this year, I don't know why, but tight ends are not getting the love. They're not getting the points.
And Garn Gill said Gronk led team in targets last game. Okay, I mean that's all fine and dandy, but they're playing the Chargers, and we can make fun of the LA Chargers all day long, but they have surprisingly a very stout defense, right? They took the Kansas City, Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, and they took it to him, right? And then turn around, Kansas City, what they do to the Ravens, made them look like children, right? So I really like Los Angeles' defense. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Cargill actually made another point. I have this comment up, so I'm going to leave this comment up for now. But he says Godwin is injured. That does play into it. But I just I can't trust Gronk just yet. I need to see more from him before I trust him over a guy who's been producing so far this year.
Fantasy football is all about trust, man. You got to earn my trust.
So let's get to Travis's comment.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson, Robert Woods, or Devontae Parker in a wide receiver 2 with Smith-Schuster now having a bye week. Where are you going with this, Casey?
Man, that's a hard one, right? That's a really hard one.
These are all guys that can produce.
Because I'm staring at Justin Jefferson, he looks like that burger on the menu I know I shouldn't order, right? So I like Justin Jefferson, but then turn around and look at Robert Woods. Robert Woods consistently produces, and when we just got done talking about trust with Gronk, right? I don't trust Gronk. Robert Woods has been so consistent for us so far this season, and going into last season, he's been so consistent. I like Robert Woods. I'm going to go ahead and take Robert Woods, but man, I tell you what, that Justin Jefferson looks pretty daggum good.
If you can get Robert Woods in your wide receiver 2, and then if you have I don't know why you wouldn't put Devontae Parker in your flex.
Yeah,
I would consider doing that. If you have room, if you're trying to decide between these 3 with your wide receiver 2, you should be able to play 2 of them unless you have just a crazy good running back or tight end in your flex already. So, I mean, Robert Woods is the answer because he's going to get you 12, 14, 16 points probably. That's his standard. And then I'm a Devontae Parker guy. I think especially with Fitz throwing him the ball, he has the potential, and then goes back to that Seahawks defense. He has the potential to put up some points.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing at everybody talking about Gronk getting fat, and I just love it. I just love it. Who's next? Who's got some more questions?
Let's get Corey Buffalo's comment up here. We got for the flex, I think he means Kenny Galladay, Robbie Anderson, or David Johnson.
So we've already talked about Robbie Anderson. So let's go ahead and take him out because top 10 pass defense. Let's go ahead and take him out.
And he's not the type of guy who's going to keep up his production that he's had through the first couple of weeks. He's not going to be able to keep that up consistently every single week. He's not that guy.
It'd be a lot cooler if he did, but he's just not that guy. Kenny Galladay is playing the Browns, so he's got that secondary to worry about, which I say worry loosely. Okay. And then you got David Johnson. Who are the Texans playing?
The Texans have the Vikings.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I took Vikings in that game.
I'm not betting on that.
I'm not betting on Houston ever again. Not after the embarrassment they did to me on opening night. I don't care if I lose tons of money. I'm never betting on them again. It's a trash organization. I said it. I'm going to go Kenny Galladay.
You're upset.
I'm over here talking about
you need to flesh out these feelings real quick. You are upset.
I'm over here talking about how I'm a professional gambler and I really like the Texans +7, blah, blah, blah. And they came out and they just took a dump on the field for me. And I was like, all right, thanks, guys. Cool. Appreciate y'all. Right. And they did absolutely nothing. It's just a trash organization. Hate them. Love Deshaun Watson, though. And JJ Watt. I think he's a cool guy. I'm going to go Kenny Galladay. My man, I'm going to go Kenny Galladay. I really like him. Not to say that David Johnson's not going to do good. I like David Johnson. I remember back a couple of years ago, he was my number 1 overall pick in fantasy. And he's slowly starting to get back to that 2016 form. I don't think he's ever going to get there, right? But he is slowly starting to get better. I like David Johnson. He's definitely a good pickup. But I'm going to go Kenny Galladay. I just like him a lot more. And I trust him a lot more against that Brown secondary.
Yeah, and he's the number 1, right?
Yeah, and he's the number 1.
I mean, if you're not going to go with David Johnson – then you're going to go with Kenny Galladay. And I would play Kenny Galladay every single week if he's healthy. He's the type of wide receiver. He was, 1,000-yard receiver, 1,100-yard receiver last year? He puts up numbers.
Yeah.
He gets the targets. He does everything that you need within that offense for him to get fantasy points. So he's a must-start every week, whether you're starting him in the flex, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, whatever your situation is. If you have Kenny Galladay, play him.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, let's go to this comment right here from
Hayden
Nathan
Hurst.
Jennings.
I'm not starting Hayden Hurst.
No.
I looked at his. I looked at it, and when I was writing my fantasy column, I was looking at a lot of people's stats, and I was looking at tight ends. Hayden Hurst is an interesting guy, and I looked at it last week. He got 1 reception, 1 touchdown, 7 points. Right? Okay, great production for a tight end, especially this year's tight ends. But Gesicki, man, he is on a mission. Like, he is a beast. I'm really liking Gesicki. They are playing the Seattle defense. But Ryan Fitz really, really loved throwing to Gesicki when he played the Bills. I'm going Gesicki. He's such a dominant guy. I'm actually in awe of him. I really like him.
He's solid. Yeah, I mean, he's probably not going to have that statistical production that he had against the Bills. Like that's a once a season type of production for a guy like him.
Sure.
But he's the type of guy who can get you 5-6 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. So I mean, I like that one. Let's go to this one real quick.
Sprite Zero or Diet
Sierra Mist.
Bruh, Sprite Zero. Like, what is this? Come on, man. Look,
I've never had. I don't drink the sodas or the pops, whatever you want to call them. I don't drink the ones that are the zero.
Sprite Zero has been dominant for almost a decade. Like, don't do that. Like, he's consistently putting up points every single Sunday. Like, why are we doubting Sprite Zero right now? Start.
He is a Sprite Zero must start.
Put him in your fantasy lineup and don't look back. You were going to win the game off that pick alone. Corey Buffalo said Golladay is playing the Saints, not the Browns.
Yeah, he's right.
Okay, then what are we talking about?
I don't know. I must have missed that when you were talking. I think I was scrolling through when you said that. But
who are the Browns playing?
The Browns are playing the Cowboys. We talked about this earlier. Come on, man. I know you woke up 15 minutes before the show. Did you have your coffee?
Yeah, I've been drinking it all day. What? I feel like such an idiot. Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, they got the Lions right now. Or he's on the Lions. Wow.
Oh, my God, bro.
What are we doing?
Oh, my God. Corey, dude, I'm so sorry, Corey.
No, they got the Saints. Sorry. Yeah, Corey's right.
I'm so sorry, Corey. The point still stands, though. Kenny Golladay is the number 1 wide receiver. I'm so sorry. Surprise. Thank you, man. Guys, I apologize for that. Spin's telling me to wake up. Chris Jenkins saying shout out to my guys, Casey and Knapp. Travis comes back and says, so then Singletary or Parker in the flex? Dude, Singletary.
Yeah,
I don't care what Knapp says. I don't care what Knapp says, Singletary in your flex.
No, I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with that. I think this is a type of week where Singletary, like we talked about earlier, Singletary has the potential to just have a really big day. So I'm comfortable with that. If your option in the flex is Singletary, roll with it.
All right, guys, we've got about 9 more minutes before I go away, and Knapp continues his streak with Judge. So real quick, I want to plug Knapp Show. Knapp Show comes out every Friday. He does bold predictions for the following week. Make sure you check that out only on Buffalo Fanatics Network. Then, of course, check out my show. I'm there with Manny. I cover all things fantasy football and the spreads. My must-bet games of the week is definitely Buffalo -3, and then I've got Atlanta +7.5. Come at me if you will. Definitely start those guys or bet those guys. So check that out. I'm also a writer on thebuffalofanatics.com. So the buffalofanatics.com has so many great writers, so many great people in that organization. You definitely need to go to that website. And if you want content for the Bills, go to that website. Read those articles. There's articles every single day. I know I'm coming out Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday for articles up there. 2 of them are fantasy football, and the Saturday one is a gambling article where you can actually find Knapp's takes on the games as well. He's going to have his picks in there in my article. And same with a lot of other people like Judge, like Tilt Money, like Jay Spence from the Hump Day. So you're going to find a lot of things in that article as well. So make sure you're going to the buffalofanatics.com and make sure you're smashing that like button for this pregame show. So what other questions do y'all have with fantasy football before we get going?
We got this one right here. And this is an interesting one because Greg Ward or Gabriel Davis. We already talked about how we like Gabriel Davis this week. Do you like Greg Ward better than Gabriel Davis?
Give me 2 seconds. Let me look it up. I'm not getting in the same Kenny Golladay mess.
Now you want to double check your work?
I want to double check, yeah.
That's probably smart. I mean, when you're waking up 15 minutes before the show, you got to make sure you're double checking everything that you're doing. So let me hear it. What, Greg Ward or Gabriel Davis?
I'm reading this right? Greg Ward is playing San Fran, right? Greg Ward put up 8 receptions, 72 yards, 1 touchdown for a tune of 21 points. The game before that against Los Angeles, he had 1 reception, 5 yards, and 1 point. The game before that, he had 5 receptions, 31 points, 8 points. He's very up and down. He's up and down. He's a boom or bust candidate. The thing that I like about Gabriel Davis is he's slowly increased each and every week. So I like that trend more than I like a boom or bust type guy. But I could also see the reason why starting Greg Ward.
I was going to go with Greg Ward.
Yeah, I could see the reason being why you would start Greg Ward. My only issue is, Cincinnati is not San Fran. San Fran, regardless of the injuries they have on that defensive front,
got some guys. So.
It's still a good defensive front. So when I look at that, Philadelphia's offensive line is just trash. Okay, so I wonder if Carson Wentz is going to be running for his life the whole game.
The only reason that I would say Greg Ward is that they have nobody else. They have to throw him the ball. It's Zach Ertz or him pretty much. That's their options unless they're going to dump it off to Miles Sanders out of the backfield. So
correct.
He has to get the targets. Whereas as much as I like Gabriel Davis to get enough targets to put up some points for me, for what I have, I like Greg Ward to get enough targets to, especially if it's PPR, and I will put that as a caveat. If you're not playing in a PPR, I would hesitate on Greg Ward because he's probably not going to get a ton of yards with his catches. I might be wrong on that. We'll see. Don't quote me. But, I like Greg Ward, even though he's playing against a good defense, just because there's no other options.
That one's a tough one. I see everybody's points with the Greg Ward's going to get all these targets and all this good stuff. And Chris Jenkins says that I see Ward for sheer volume and targets. I get it. But my heart will go on like Celine Dion, and I'm going to take Gabriel Davis on this one. And look, call me a homer if you want, but Greg Ward scares me. That offensive line scares me. Philadelphia scares me going against San Francisco. And I'm okay. I've taken many L's this season, and I'm okay with taking one more. I like Gabriel Davis. Nap likes Greg Ward. You go with your heart. Which one was the first one that came to mind, right? Which one was the first one, right? Follow that. How much longer do we have? Do we have
a couple minutes? We can do one more. We did this last week. If Julio plays, if he plays, I play him because I play him every single week as long as he plays. But you got to make sure you pay attention to the inactives because obviously he didn't play last week, so he got a big fat 0 if you decided to play him. But if he plays, I don't know how you can turn away from him even though he has a hammy injury because he's Julio. I don't know.
Did Spin ask the same exact question?
I think he did.
Come on, Spin, just start Julio.
He has a good point. Okay, so he has a good point here. It is Monday's game, so that does change things because I forgot that they play on Monday.
Yeah,
I was thinking they were playing today. I don't know why. It's been that type of day for us, Casey. We've been just a tad bit off today. I think.
I don't know. That's on
me.
But
yeah, so that does change things a little bit. If you have somebody else on the Falcons, if you can pick up if you can pick somebody else on the Falcons, then you can have that game time decision type of thing.
I like him. He didn't play last week. I like him. I like him to start.
I think he plays this week. Just my gut feeling. But it's tough with it being on a Monday. Let's do you want to take the time for one more, or you think we should?
Yeah,
at this point, we'll take one more.
Ray McLeod comes up and he said, "Should I play Stephon Diggs or Ray McLeod?" Stephon Diggs. I mean, that one's a tough one, because Ray's done so great in the league so far this year, and Stephon Diggs has been, just iffy.
Ray's a top tier wide receiver. He always has been,
and I get that, right? Except for the chance, when to catch the ball. But I'm liking Stephon Diggs in this game. Yeah, I'm still liking Stephon Diggs. He's a must start every single week.
Yeah. All right. I think that's probably a good place to end it right there.
All right, guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you stay tuned for everything else. Make sure you're checking out Buff City on Saturdays. Make sure you're checking out Nap Knows Bills on Fridays. And other than that, guys, I will see y'all later.
All right. Peace. Go Bills.
right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the BF Tailgate. I once again return. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis, and I finally have, Kyle, my morning coffee. They were making fun of me in the show open. You weren't around yet, but I was calling.
I was watching.
At one point, I had called the Las Vegas Raiders the Oakland Raiders, and at one point, I had called them the Los Angeles Raiders. So I was on the struggle bus this morning. So I finally have my coffee. I will say this. My coffee is interesting this morning because I bought this new creamer, and it's like a ketogenic creamer, right? It's like low carb, low sugar type of creamer, and it all is all congealing at the top of my coffee. My coffee looks disgusting, but it tastes great.
So I'm going to say something that might be controversial, might not. I hate coffee. I think it's terrible. I understand why people need it. Maybe that makes me untrustworthy. I don't know. But I've never been a coffee guy. I can't do it. I don't know why. But if I'm waking up at your time right now, I got to find something to drink to get me going.
I also have my backup plan because I have been packing on the LBs lately. So I have my tonic water and vodka to go along with it too.
Okay. Getting going early. I like it.
I believe at the club they call it a skinny bitch when you mix the vodka and some seltzer. So that's what I will be drinking this morning as we get this pregame show started. So as always, you are known now at Fanatics. You are the bold prediction guy.
I like it.
You are the man every Friday who listens to people's bold and daring predictions. You analyze them and you share some bold predictions of your own. So what are some, I forgot my microphone. What are some bold predictions that you have for the game this week?
All right, so I put out 3. I want to give you I think 2 of them kind of combine actually. So I'm actually going to make it even more bold. I'm going to put it all into one. Mm-hmm. So I got Gabriel Davis, did it again. Gabriel Davis, I'm going to work on that. Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs, I got them both going over 100 yards. So I got 2 100-yard receivers. And I know it hasn't happened. I can't even remember the last time that's happened for Buffalo. But the Raiders secondary just not – there's not much there. It's depleted. They didn't have a whole lot to begin with. And now you got injuries going on there too. So I like that. And I think I'm going to combine that with the second prediction that I made. And I got Josh Allen throws for a 60-plus yard touchdown this week.
Yeah, I like both those predictions because if you look at it, I mean, you mentioned that secondary is depleted. You're going to have Stephon Diggs going up against Trayvon Mullen, and Trayvon Mullen has played very well. I mean, Oakland could have found themselves a very good corner in Trayvon Mullen. However, he's going up against Stephon Diggs.
Right.
Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs, and we've seen what Stephon Diggs has done to highly drafted corners in this league. I mean, he upended Noah Igbenegene a couple of weeks ago in Miami. So when Stephon Diggs has a younger guy up against him, he can eat and he can do some work. So there's one place where you can get 100 yards and your 60-yard bomb possibly. Yeah. And then you look over at the other side, Damon Arnett is out. And in his place is Nevin Lawson, who's 5'9", and he's also dealing with an ankle injury. He wasn't on the injury list to end the week, but he was limited in practice. So ankle injury, John Brown, that speed down the field, struggling. 5'9" against Gabriel Davis, who's 6'2". There's your size mismatch. So if you look at it, whether it's John Brown or it's Gabriel Davis on that number 2 corner, they both have an advantage against a journeyman corner in Nevin Lawson. And then you go and you look at the safeties. Eric Harris, big guy, 6'2", 6'3", 220. Same with Jonathan Abrams. He's a bigger guy. They're both practically box safeties. One of them's got to play center field, probably Harris. And they're not very good at it. So
yeah, they're more run-focused safeties. Yeah. So they're once again, it just goes back to it's a secondary that can be thrown on. You can pass the ball against the secondary, and it's not that they're bad players just in general. Like I said it last hour, they're NFL talent. They're good players, but they're not the level they need to be to stop the Bills' offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm with you, and that's why I say run to set up or pass to set up the run this week. Like do what you did last week against the Rams. It should still continue to be that 60-40 type of throw to run. And still, Devin Singletary, whether Zach Moss plays or not, get him those 15 to 16 touches. You don't need to give Devin Singletary the ball 25 times or give Devin Singletary the ball 15 times and TJ Yeldon or Zach Moss the ball 10. That doesn't need to happen. You can still have success on the ground and get chunk plays if you throw to set up the pass. I'd love to see Josh Allen throw the ball 40 times again today.
Yeah, no, I think it's something that he can excel if he's throwing the ball 40 times at this point. Last year, it was something where like we weren't really sure if he would be able to excel doing that. This year, completely different story. He throws the ball 40 times. I'm comfortable with it every single game.
Mm-hmm. Jay King has a great question. Are we overconfident? Are Bills fans overconfident right now in this football team?
I think so. So that's a good question because we haven't really been in a position like this before, right? Mm-hmm. Where the team is actually good. The offense is generally firing on all cylinders because there's been, a couple hiccups there, especially that third quarter end of game stuff. We'll just go third quarter. But I don't think that we're overconfident in this game because of the injuries. Now, I know that's like the perfect letdown spot, but just there's so many injuries. There's so many opportunities for holes within the Raiders offense or even just defense too, where the Bills defense could take advantage of guys. The Bills offense could take advantage of guys because you're not getting every single starter. You're not even getting like a majority of the starters at this point because there's so many guys that are hurt. I don't – maybe we're being a little overconfident, but I don't think that we're really being that overconfident. Maybe saying like a 45-10 win would be overconfident. I guess not maybe, but I think just expecting a win, expecting the Bills offense to be dominant, I don't think that's overconfident at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because I think that as a Bills fan, we haven't had much to be confident about in the last like 20 years. So I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts, and I'm going to be confident until someone makes me not confident. You know what I'm saying? Like until a team comes in and shuts us up, I'm going to be confident because last week I even mentioned this last week. I was like, yeah, I think the Bills offense is going to go off on this Rams defense, and I don't feel bad about saying that. I don't feel guilty about saying that. And sure enough, they go and they drop 28 points in the first half.
Yeah,
they backed it up. I mean, of course, it slowed down in the second half. They still scored enough to win. The Rams almost shut us up real quick in that second half. But that was more on our defense than our offense. There was just some really bad officiating that hurt the flow of the game, and our defense wasn't tackling or playing well. And Sean McVay got his, does what he does in that second half. But I was highly confident in the Bills, and up until like the third quarter last week, Bills were curb stomping the Rams.
Yeah. And here's the difference between the Rams and the Raiders is that the Rams want to have a slow, methodical offense. Mm-hmm. So, like, they're not going to put up points in a hurry like the Rams can. The Rams, once they got rolling, they were just putting points up in a hurry. It was like 10, 15 yards every single play. The Raiders aren't doing that. The Raiders, they might get those plays every now and then, but the Raiders are more of a small yards, just be consistent, have like a 12, 14-play drive, and then just reset the next drive and do it again. Like, that's what they want to do. And especially since their offense doesn't have like their two top guys with two top wide receivers with Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs. I believe both of them are out, or at least Ruggs is doubtful. Ruggs is doubtful. Mm-hmm. So, like, not likely to play.
Yeah, he's not playing.
Without both of them, yeah, especially with him being a speed guy and it's a hamstring injury, I pretty much just view him as being out. But without those types of guys in the offense, it's a lot easier to key in on what the Raiders want to do as opposed to as it would be if they were both in the offense.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of offense, let's take a look at this Raiders offense real quick. And I got an over-under for you to start today. And if you think about this Raiders offense, without Bryan Edwards, without Tyreek Williams has been on IR, and without Henry Ruggs, it is Darren Waller, it is Foster Moreau, it is Jalen Richard, it is Hunter Renfrow, it is Nelson Aguilar, it is Zay Jones. And then, which essentially what I'm trying to get at is this offense is going to be funneled through two guys, Waller, who I mentioned, and Josh Jacobs. So my first over-under for you is the guy who is the engine, the frame, the doors. I think he's everything but the seatbelts of this offense. Josh Jacobs does over-under 100 yards for him today.
Are we going total or rushing?
I'm going to say rushing.
You know what? I'm still going to go over.
Mm-hmm.
What I saw last week from the Bills' rushing defense, just not impressive. And if the Bills are going to let Darrell Henderson gash them like that, even if the Raiders have a little bit of a banged-up offensive line, Josh Jacobs is still just talented enough where I think he probably can get over 100 yards rushing. And I don't think that that's necessarily going to be like a terrible thing for the game if he does that, as long as we keep it just like in certain situations, or if he just gets it later in the game because they're just like, whatever, we just need to run clock and end this.
Yeah.
So I think he can get those 100 yards because I'm just not too confident in the Bills' running defense right now.
I'm gonna take a different approach, and I'm actually gonna say under. I think he's gonna go under, and here's why. It has everything to do with the wide receivers on the Raiders this week. With Renfro and Aguilar and Zay Jones, I feel like the Buffalo Bills aren't going to be scared of any of those wide receivers. And despite the fact that Aguilar and Jones have speed, I don't think that I wouldn't consider either of those two a deep threat because they don't play as fast as they're clocked, and they don't do well down the field. So if you look at it, I think that the Buffalo Bills can play sort of that defense like they played against the New England Patriots last year. Keep everything in front of them in the passing game. Drop those corners back, drop those safeties back, let them just, play a little bit off, keep everything in front of them, give Derek Carr his dinks and his dunks. And I think you're going to see last week, the Bills played 0-43 traditional defense. Every single snap they played was nickel. Every single snap. Mostly because they never got down to the goal line. That's why it was peculiar. They scored from very far out. The Rams did. But A.J. Klein's going to play more than Teron Johnson this week, I think. I think you're going to see the Buffalo Bills stack that box and say, all right, your receivers suck. Our secondary can handle it. Let's see you run over a stack box. And it's going to force Oakland into passing. And on top of that, I think the Buffalo Bills offense is going to score a ton, which I think is going to make the Raiders then in turn have to pass the ball. So I think it's sort of a perfect storm of a couple of things. One, I think the Bills are going to stack the box. Two, I think the Bills are going to score so much. Oakland's going to have to go away from the run. There's a couple of things. There's a couple of reasons why I think that. But I think that Josh Jacobs goes under 100 yards today.
I understand what you're saying there. I think especially if the Bills do score a lot of points and they score in a hurry at the beginning of the game, which is entirely possible. If that happens, then my prediction goes out the window there. But if the Raiders offense is able to have those slow, methodical drives, I think that's where it slows the Bills offense down enough just because the Raiders offense could be like an 8-minute drive.
Yeah, we got PJ coming in saying, do we know if Addison is playing today? I know he showed up late on the report. And the reason why I pulled this up is I honestly have no idea. We won't know.
Yeah, no clue.
He clearly injured himself in practice where no one in the media could actually see what was going on. The fact that it's questionable and not doubtful maybe makes it seem like if he had gotten hurt on Monday, he'd probably be off the injury report. But because it was so late, he's questionable. So who knows in that regard? But I have a decently hot take about what we could see on this defense if Mario Addison doesn't go.
I would love to hear it.
If Mario Addison doesn't, I take it back. Never mind. My hot take is gone. I was going to say calling up Justin. I take it back. You want to know? I'm confident that Mario Addison's going to play now because my hot take was going to be calling Justin Zimmer up and slotting Quentin Jefferson over to end and giving Quentin Jefferson some run at end. But they didn't call Zimmer up from the practice squad, which I believe they had to have done.
Makes it tough to have that hot take be correct.
Yeah, they had tough for that hot take to be correct. At least I caught myself before I said out loud. But yeah, so PJ, now I'm more confident that Mario Addison's going to play because Justin Zimmer wasn't called up, even though they play different positions. Mike Love or Brian Cox weren't called up either. Carl Thoman with the super chat. We always appreciate it, Carl. Next time, throw a comment in there, man. Throw a question. Have yourself be heard. We appreciate the super chatters. We appreciate your support, but we want to make sure that any question you have, we can answer it for you. Or a topic you want to talk about. Where do we get the, because you got a hat too, man. Where do we get that? I do,
yeah. I was just playing around with some little custom designs. So if somebody wants something, they can hit me up in the DMs and I'll work it out with them and I can make sure it gets shipped out to them. We can, there is a Bills guy shirt in the BF fan shop. So get together with Pierre and Rico and maybe we can get your gear onto Teespring. I know that the Bills guys gear is it's flying off the shelves because we sold at least 6. I know I have bought one. I know Dave has bought one, and I know our parents have each collectively bought. At least 6 of those shirts have gone off into the BF fan shop. So, it's gone. They replaced us with Stash Allen. Is that what happened? Did they replace us with Stash Allen? Dude, you got the hoodie just in time then. I didn't get that hoodie. So I should have got the hoodie when I had a chance. Anyway,
We just got done talking about the rushing offense for the Raiders. I want to now talk a little bit about the rushing offense for the Bills. I said before, I think that we need to throw today to set up the run. So I don't think the running is going to be the focus of today.
Agreed.
So my next over-under question to you is not rushing yards, but all-purpose yards. We had the same question last week. I think I took the under and you took the over for Devin Singletary, 100 all-purpose yards. He ended up going over. So I'm going to ask you that same question again this week. Over-under 100 all-purpose yards for Devin Singletary.
Oh, smash the over all day. Yeah, no, if you get him in space, you get him, 2 or 3 receptions even. You don't even have to get him involved in the passing game that much, but you just get him in space a couple times. He could end up racking up 40, 50 yards receiving, and if he gets more catches, obviously that's only going up. So I don't even think he has to have a great rushing day to hit the over for all-purpose yards here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you because, I look at it in a couple of senses. One, if we're passing the ball with success, that's going to open up some rushing lanes for you and some chunk plays. And we see what Devin Singletary can do at the second level. Then you look at the linebackers of the Raiders. And, LaMarcus Joyner, who I think is a very good nickel corner, is going up against Cole Beasley. So Cole Beasley might have some trouble this week. That being said, another way to attack the middle of that Raiders defense or to take some pressure off of John Brown and Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs on the outside could be to get the ball in Devin Singletary's hand. Test Corey Littleton. Corey Littleton is known as a tight end who's good at covering receivers, is good at pass coverage, but he's been struggling this year. Attack Corey Littleton. Nick Kwiatkowski's coming off a pec injury. He may or may not play. If he doesn't, it's going to be Raekwon McMillan. None of those guys are known for being able to cover running backs or tight ends.
Right.
So challenge those linebackers at the second level, and that'll open up things even more. I know they're going to creep their safeties up because their safeties are big. I understand that. But if you get that ball to Devin Singletary, he's really good at making people miss. So get him that ball in space today. I'd like to see maybe a couple of screen passes. Get Dawson Knox involved. I know he's kind of a name that we shouldn't be mentioning right now because the fans are going to talk about his drops and his fumbles. But yeah, get Knox involved. PJ just even said it. Do we see Knox make a splash play today? I think Knox is going to have 2 to 3 touches today, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of them was a big play.
I mean, if they get him involved in the screenplay, nothing would surprise me with what he could do because once he gets the ball in his hands, he can make some plays. We've seen him throw guys into the ground, just run through guys. So once he gets the ball in his hands, he could definitely rack up some yards and have a big play. There is actually a comment that I want to go to.
Go for it.
Right here. A. Brennick says, I think Allen goes for over 100 on the ground. I think that we're seeing a change in Josh Allen. I think we're seeing him much more of a guy who's going to focus on passing the ball. And I think the only times that I would really consider him not necessarily being a running threat, because he's always going to be a running threat, but a threat to get 100 yards, I think that's going to be really, really limited this year just because of the way he's playing. I think it would have to be a team that's getting after the quarterback really well for him to have to actually roll out of the pocket and then actually have enough attempts to get to 100 yards. The Raiders are not a team that's getting after the quarterback well enough to make that happen. So I just don't see that working out. We
got Jay Spence the King, who will be live today because we haven't even talked about yet how much it sucks that the Bills kick off at 4:25 Eastern. Like,
I hate it.
It's terrible. It is the absolute worst. Give me prime time. Give me prime time or give me the 1 o'clock start. But Jay Spence coming in, he thinks that Josh Allen's going to have some success on the ground. Not 100-yard success, but he thinks he can have some success on the ground. He says a prediction for the stat line, 28 for 35, 328, 3 touchdowns, 7 rushes for 62 yards. I think Josh Allen, if you have him on a fantasy team and he's on your bench today, like, I don't know what you're thinking.
He's the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. If you have him, he should never be on your bench at this point.
Yeah. We got a super chat here from Justin. He says, today is the day where Josh Allen drops his nuts all over the Raiders and haters in the media. Norman and Levi trading snaps like Johnson last year, 35-10 Buffalo. So I appreciate the colorful way in which you described the day that Josh Allen's going to have. Of course, We just got done talking about Josh Allen, so let's talk about this Josh Norman, Levi Wallace stuff a little bit. How do you think it's going to play out today? Them trading snaps back and forth.
So it's Josh Norman's first game back. You good there?
Yeah, no, I'm struggling.
It's Josh Norman's first game back, and Levi Wallace didn't have a bad game last game. Not going to speak on the first 2 games because he didn't play great in the first 2. But last game, he didn't play terribly. I know it looks even better than it was because he got the interception. But I see them just splitting time. Like, they're not going to just rush Josh Norman right back into it because he had a hamstring injury. And they take things slow with hamstring injuries. You want to make sure that they're good to go. And he didn't even get activated until just yesterday. So I see Josh Norman getting playing time. But I think he's probably going to be on a snap count where they're just splitting time, whether it's 50-50, 40-60. He'll get in the game, but I don't think that they're going to play him like 100% of the snaps. That's maybe, I don't know, maybe do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree, but I want to see him play. Like, I really
agreed. Yeah, no, I want to see him play.
And especially this week, because if I'm correct in my prediction that the Buffalo Bills are going to take sort of that approach that we took on defense to New England last year, where we try to keep the stuff in front of us and we try to and we just let them sort of dink and dunk. If we can get pressure in the face of Derek Carr, which is tougher this year because they're not calling holding penalties, and we are struggling to get a pass rush. Our pass rush success rate is good. Our actual, like, getting to the quarterback, struggling a little bit. And if we can get in Derek Carr's face and these receivers can't get over the top, Josh Norman is a really aggressive corner. He's just really good at jamming people, and he's really good at jumping routes. I think we could see him being a guy who could force more turnovers on this defense. I know Levi had one last week, but Josh Norman is a guy, if we're playing that sort of defense where they're playing back and jumping routes, I think Josh Norman can have a lot of success doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, especially against wide receivers who are not like the best wide receivers right now. Like, they're really hurting at the wide receiver position. We've mentioned it multiple times already. So this is a good game for him to come back and try and play his style of game that he wants to play, because he's not going up against the top tier guys. So he's not going up against guys who are as crafty, who could work their way around some of the stuff that he wants to do. So, I mean, I like the idea of getting him in there more. I'm hesitant on it literally just because it's a hamstring injury.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. And we want to thank A. Brennick for the super sticker. $1.99 super chat. We always appreciate it. Somebody, Jason asked me, was that a straw in a beer? That was not a straw in the beer. This is actually, as I mentioned, I'm trying to get myself back in a little bit of shape. You know, having to be on camera 3 times a week really makes you think about, like, the lifestyle decisions that you're making.
You only have to be on camera from, like, here up.
Yeah, but you're
good
now. Yeah, but like I'm just like, you know, most of my weight ends up like right in this area right here, like in this area. So like I gotta watch what I'm eating. I gotta watch what I'm drinking. So as much as I'd like to be drinking a beer right now, it's currently a seltzer and vodka, otherwise known as a skinny bitch. So I was drinking my skinny bitch with a straw, and then the straw almost poked my eye out. So now I am drinking it. I'm just going to drink it straight. So Sunday's tea take, come on, man. I agree. I probably should. But here's the thing. When you treat every day like a treat day, you have to take a break and go cold turkey, because it starts to, you know, it really starts to build on you. But yeah, it's a struggle. I do have the coffee. Maybe I should just Irish up the coffee.
That's never a bad option. As much as I don't like coffee, like, that's not a bad option.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we pull up the Bloody Mary time. Let us know what your pregame drink is. We always appreciate a good recommendation for a pregame drink. Till Molney coming in with the hard seltzer. You know, I do in the summer enjoy my claws in the summer. I don't know. Are you a claw guy?
I mean, I like claws. I like high noons.
Oh,
they're a little bit more expensive. It's not like the malt beverage that you drink. It's literally just like juice and vodka, pretty much. So that's my go-to, but they're a little bit more expensive. If I'm drinking just a regular seltzer, I go with like the Bud Light seltzers or the Corona seltzers. Am I weird for that?
The Bud Light seltzer to me tastes way too much like orange juice. It freaks me out.
I think they have a tad bit more flavor.
Yeah, a little heavier in my opinion.
That's fair.
A little heavier. All right. So we have in the next, in about 5 minutes, we're going to have a awesome trio of Dave Tilton, my co-host from the Bills guys, Adam Nanini from the NFL Basement, and Mitch Brodera, one of the writers, one of the featured columnists from our website, thebuffalofanatics.com. So they will be coming in hot at 11:30. Until then, I think we got enough time for one more over-under.
Let's do it.
And should it be I'm going to ask you, should it be a Raiders-focused over-under, or should it be a Bills-focused over-under?
Let's do a Raiders-focused one, because I'm sure the rest of the show is going to be as much Bills-focused as possible. So let's get a little bit of a Raiders-focused one in here.
All right. So this is my over-under for you, and it has a Raiders focus. Over-under 350 yards of offense for the Raiders today. They are averaging 374 for the season.
So I'm going to go over, and it's not because I think the offense is going to necessarily do that great. It's because I think the Bills are going to have a lead, and then they're going to get some yards in garbage time.
Mm-hmm.
And I like if Josh Jacobs, because I already said I think Josh Jacobs goes over 100 yards rushing. If he does that, it's not going to take a whole lot to get 100 yards of passing in garbage time, because they're not they're a dink and dunk offense. And if the Bills have a huge lead, they're going to play that softer defense. They're not going to be as aggressive like you were just talking about. Like, they might come out aggressive in the first half, first three quarters, but if they're able to hold that lead, then I think that the fourth quarter you could see the Raiders have a couple of nice plays where they end up getting those yardage to put them over that 350 mark.
Yeah, I'm going to go against what you have to say again. Maybe it's just me playing devil's advocate here. Maybe it's just me being a little overconfident, as we were talking about earlier. I'm going to go under, and
I hope you're right.
Because I'm going to say it from this. Like, our defense got embarrassed in the second half last week. They got embarrassed. And I understand that they're struggling with some injuries right now, and I understand all that. But this is a prideful group with a lot of players like Trey White, and then Josh Norman, who's coming into this defense now, and Jordan Poyer, and Micah Hyde, and Tremaine Edmonds, and Matt Milano. There's a lot of Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, you name it. There are a lot of veterans and a lot of prideful players on this defense, and I can't see themselves having another week like they had last week, at least not 2 weeks in a row. So I think that the second half of last week might have been a little bit of a wake-up call. And I hope so. I mentioned in the first half hour, this isn't the Rex Ryan Buffalo Bills, where the secondary is blaming the defensive line after last week, and the defensive line is blaming the secondary, and the coach is throwing the players under the bus. That's not how this team operates under Sean McDermott. What they did this week was they got together, they reflected, they figured out what they did right, they figured out what they did wrong, and they attacked and tried to find a way to fix it. And I really think that they're going to have the right mindset coming into this week, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to have something to prove. So even if it does end up in garbage time, I still think that those Buffalo players are going to be hungry to send a message, even if it is in garbage time. So I'm going to take the under. But 350 is kind of a low number in today's NFL, but I'm still going to take it.
It is. And that's what makes me hesitant, is that it is so low, especially with them. They're not even that great of an offense, especially with all their injuries. And that's lower than what they're averaging right now. So that makes me think that they're going to be able to at least get that, not have a great day, but be able to get that number, get that 350 total. And even if it ends up being garbage time, that's very possible. I think it's even likely.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got Till Money coming in. It says, smash those likes, everybody. I've actually been going hard since 9:45. I started a little later today. I wanted to sleep in a little bit, but so I've been going since 9:45 this morning, and I got a nice little hour break because Casey and Knapp did what they did in the 10 o'clock hour. So Knapp, before we head out and we hand it over to Dave and Adam, tell us about Knapp Knows Bills, which airs every Friday here on the Buffalo Fanatics Podcasting Network.
Yeah, so if you're not listening to Knapp Knows Bills, you got to start listening. If you want to get your bold predictions, this is what Steve mentioned earlier on the show. I'm the bold predictions guy now. If you want to get your bold prediction read on the show, I will read and react to it. I will give you a shout out, and we have fun with those. I've gotten a lot of really good responses so far, so people have been tuning in. They've been helping out with that part of the show. But every single week, I'm giving my likes, my dislikes. I'll give a little mini preview of the game. I'm not going to act like I'm a huge expert who can go extremely in-depth. But then I like to focus on those bold predictions because it makes it fun. And that's why I want to keep the show fun. I I want to keep it light, and I want to get you guys involved. So if you're a listener, if you're not participating in the bold predictions yet, make sure you tweet me, and I'll get you involved in the bold predictions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for our portion of the tailgate. In about 2 minutes, you will be joined by Dave Tilton, Adam Nannini, and hopefully Mitch Brodeur. I don't see him down there in the waiting room, but I'm sure Mitch will get in either before we start or shortly after. So until what time is it on the East Coast right now?
11:30.
30. So until 12:15, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you, and Nap will be back next Sunday.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
This is Fast Fanatics. Everything you need to know about this week's game in under 2 minutes. The betting lines favor the 3-0 Buffalo Bills as they head to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Bills are 3-point favorites, and the over-under is 52.5. Weather won't be a factor this week, as the game will be taking place inside an oversized Roomba, otherwise known as Allegiant Stadium. The Raiders will be short a handful of players. Out is starting corner and first-round pick Damon Arnett, fellow rookie and starting wide receiver Brian Edwards, and starting left guard and former Buffalo Bill Richie Incognito. Unlikely to play for the Raiders is starting right tackle Trent Brown and starting wide receiver Henry Ruggs. Game time decisions include starting safety Jonathan Abraham and linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski. On the Bills' end, a much shorter list. Out is reserve linebacker Delshon Phillips. Questionable are running backs Zach Moss and defensive end Mario Addison. If Moss can't go, expect another heavy workload for Devin Singletary with TJ Yeldon sprinkled in. If Addison can't go, expect the snap counts for Jerry Hughes and Trent Murphy to rise, while AJ Epinesa and Darryl Johnson rotate in behind. Keys to the game for the defense: stack the box. Last week, the Rams ran all over the Buffalo Bills, who were running strictly nickel defense. So we should see more AJ Klein this week and less Teron Johnson. The Buffalo Bills should also take the sort of Tom Brady approach from last season. Keep everything underneath. The Raiders don't have a lot of playmakers who can make plays down the field. They rely on yards after the catch. So concentrate on the run, keep everything in front of you, and make sure that you are tackling. Keys to the game for the offense: we need to see Air Raid Allen again. The Josh Allen that we saw against the Miami Dolphins. The Buffalo Bills should be looking to throw the ball to set up the run. Oakland is dinged up at corner, and they have some big, bulky safeties. Wide receivers like Gabe Davis, John Brown, and Stephon Diggs should be able to take the top off this defense, and Allen has to connect. By getting the ball down the field, it should set up the run game for Devin Singletary.
All right, everyone, we are back after break. Thanks to Steve and Kyle Knapp for that segment just prior. Right now, we've got me, David Tilton, Tilt Money, leading this segment off with the Chief, Adam Nannini, our blog editor-in-chief, and writer extraordinaire from the blog, Mitch Brodeur, is also joining us. And Mitch joined us last week, or the week before, for a little bit and did a bang-up job, so we're having Mitch back again today. So, fellas, welcome to the tailgate. Hopefully we can hold this down until Steve-O comes back, but I think we're going to be fine. So, how are you guys doing this morning?
Well, I'll tell you, I got to catch, a lot of the Nap and Steve-O bit there, and their conversation on game drinks really disappointed me. I mean, talking seltzers and all sorts of stuff like that. It's like, give me a break, boys. You got to up your game there. I'm disappointed.
So what's your game drink then, Adam?
I typically will either go with just beer, like an IPA, craft beer, or I will do some bourbon, one or the other. Never mix the two.
Never mix. All right, Mitch, how about you, man? How you doing today? And what's your game drink?
I'm doing good. Definitely happy to be here. And, I keep it simple with the game drink. Always got to go with just some Labatt Blue, right in the heart of Buffalo. So got to keep it simple.
So I didn't prep you guys on this, and I did this on purpose because I wanted to kind of get some more, from the heart reaction here on this. We've got 45 minutes, and we're going to get to the Bills. But Adam, I know you and Nate have the NFL Basement podcast where you guys go around the NFL. And Mitch, you're very well versed in sort of general NFL. You used to write the Madden sort of recaps and previews, so you're very familiar with the other teams as well. So what I want to do for the first several minutes here is kind of go around the NFL, and then we'll end with the Bills. But I want to kind of go through like who through 3 weeks do you think is like for real based on their record, or who do you think is maybe underachieving and is better than their record is performing? So I'm going to go by division here, and I want to start right now with the NFC East. We're going to go from NFC to AFC, and you take a look at the NFC East right now, and there's not a team there that has a winning record. So you can honestly maybe make the case that there isn't a contender or pretender in this division yet, but with the expectations of the Cowboys and maybe some expectations for the Eagles, I want to get your guys' thoughts on who. We're going to just skip over overachieving because no one is. Who in this division do you think is really underachieving, and who do you expect kind of to maybe see some positive momentum in the next few weeks? Adam, we'll start with you.
Not much. I mean, I don't think many people are underachieving. I think these teams are what they're showing right now. I like this Washington team. I'm curious to see how long they're going to keep the starting quarterback in. I love the defense. They're dealing with some injuries right now. The Cowboys have a ton of talent, but the Cowboys often have a ton of talent. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they're going to be standing at the end of the day atop the NFC East, but it is such a bad division. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these teams wins the division at 8-8. And mm-hmm. And the Eagles, I don't know what's going on with Carson Wentz. He looks like he's lost his confidence. I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and Andrew Miller says Eagles, but their injuries are killing them. I mean, the Eagles have been battling wide receiver issues, it seems like now for every year that Wentz is there.
Nope. Think money froze on us, Mitch?
Yeah, I think so.
Why don't you answer the question? What do you think?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the NFC East?
Dragging in. When Dave gets settled, we'll do it. So, Mitch, what do you have to say?
I mean, I think I agree with Adam. I think the Cowboys, in the end of the day, are definitely going to be that team that will win this division. I mean, the Eagles are such a confusing team. When it's hard to believe that just a couple of years ago, this is the team that beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and now they're punting with 30 seconds left in overtime against the Bengals. So, I mean, I think the Cowboys are definitely the only team that I really see as potentially contending for the playoffs. I think the rest of this division is kind of just a lot of nothing. So, I don't think the Giants have really much going on now, especially with Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, I'm going with Cowboys for sure.
All right. Sorry, boys. I'm back. Had to adjust the internet there really quick. But it sounded like no one's really a big believer in the NFC East right now, and that's kind of coming through in the comments too, it looks like. So we've got someone NFC East will have an 8-8 division champ, says James Stroud. James, thanks for being a subscriber. Yeah, that's what Adam, kind of what you were saying. So let's move maybe to a more interesting conversation then, and this is gonna be a little bit home for you, Adam, with the NFC North with your buddy Nate there as a Lions fan. The Packers are 3-0. The Bears are 3-0. And then the Vikings, obviously, they haven't won a game yet. And the Lions are sitting there with that last second win last week. So this, to me, maybe there's a conversation here, underachieving, overachieving. I think the Packers, my personal opinion, is they are where they're supposed to be. I thought they'd be the best team in this division. But the Bears have to be the surprise right now so far at 3-0. And the Vikings, they're at 0-3. What do you see with these two teams? Do you see the Bears as for real? Do you see the Vikings as, hey, they're 0-3, that they're not as good as we thought? Like, I'm curious. Maybe we'll start with you, Mitch, on this one.
I mean, I think that the Packers, like you said, they're for real. They can win a Super Bowl this year with Rodgers playing the way he's playing, and that's a good football team top to bottom. I think the Bears are kind of frauds, to be honest. They have a good roster, but ultimately, it comes down to that quarterback position, and obviously, the Trubisky era is, I think, officially over there. And, sure, Nick Foles won, Super Bowl MVP just a couple of years ago. But, at the same time, I don't think Nick Foles is, this, elite quarterback that's going to lead this football team to, a division title. I mean, the Bears with the extra wild card spot, they could sneak into the playoffs. But this is not a team that I look at as a real Super Bowl contender or division contender, to be honest. So, I think the Packers are the only team in my eyes in this division that, is totally legit and could absolutely win a Super Bowl this year.
Totally agree. I think the Bears are frauds. And Nick Foles has played well for one team, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. And last I checked, they don't play in Chicago. The Bears really should have lost 2 games. Now you got to give them credit. They lasted, but I think they're going to come back down to earth. I agree with Mitch in this one. I do agree the Packers they've been injured. They've had some issues, but they are for real. Their offensive line is really good. Their defense is playing really well. I like, the running game, of course. I was a huge fan of Dillon coming out of college. So they, between Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones and Dillon, that's a nasty 3-headed monster at the running game. And if they start utilizing that more, it's going to be real scary. I will say the Lions, unlike the Bears, I would say the opposite. I would say the Lions have potential. Now, if they can get their defense somewhat on track, but that offense looks legit. If everybody can stay healthy, they just got Galladay back. And Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, I would say probably the most underrated receiving duo.
Marvin Jones is criminally underrated, in my opinion. Totally. That guy just makes huge catches week in, week out, and he's not the biggest dude, but I think it was week 1 against the Bears. He made some catch over the middle where he just got whacked, and he just stayed on his feet and kept going. That guy's good. And honestly, they should have won that Bears game if DeAndre Swift didn't drop that ball in the end zone. So
that was terrible. Poor Nate, man. He was pretty upset at that one. But the Lions, they got look, their whole secondary was hurt the first couple games. They're starting to get pieces back. And, I just think that if they're healthy, and this is a team that's also had some injury bugs issues the last couple of years, if they're healthy, I think they can be a contender for the wild card as well. I think the Vikings are exactly what they're showing. I think, it scares me that Zimmer looks like he's panicking. And Mike Zimmer, to me, is not the panicky type of guy. That tells me he's not seeing stuff on film, that he wants to see. So their pass rush is terrible. It's anemic. Their secondary is awful. Their offensive line is struggling. Dalvin Cook played well last week, and Jefferson had a great game. But, I'm not a huge Cousins believer, and I think the Vikings are going to come in 4th place in this division.
So I want to get to Spin's question at the end once we go through all the divisions, but this is an interesting question now with the 7 teams making the playoffs. Which division will be the first to have every single team make the playoffs? And now that's mathematically possible given the 7 teams. So we're going to come back to that at the end, I think, after we recap all the divisions. That's a very interesting question. So let's go to the what seems to be the ever-evolving year-to-year NFC South. This is a division known for teams going from worst to first to worst, year in and year out. The Panthers went going from the Super Bowl to last place. The Saints have had very good years, but they've also had some down years. The Falcons have been a mess lately. And then you have Tampa now with Tom Brady. They're the only team with a winning record in the division at 2-1. So in my mind, I look at this division. The Falcons, they should have won 2 of their games. They should have lost to Seattle, but they should be 2-1. The Panthers kind of figured they were going to be one of the worst teams in this division, but the Saints there at 1-2, maybe a little bit of a surprise. They've had a tough early season schedule, and Tampa at 2-1. So this one's a little bit hard for me. I think actually, if I'm going to say anything here, I'd say the Falcons at 0-3 are really underachieving. But again, Dan Quinn's been there. That defense, he's never really gotten it right, and he's the defensive guy. He came from the Seattle system, from Pete Carroll. And it just seems like they just waste these great years with Matt Ryan and Julio, and they've got Ridley, a rising star. They've got Todd Gurley this year. So they clearly were going in on this year to make a run, and they're 0-3. So I see them as underachieving. The other teams, I actually don't think there's any real surprises here. Maybe the Saints being at 1-2 is a little bit of a surprise, but that division is going to be competitive all year. I think might come down to 10 wins, maybe winning that division. Adam, let's start with you on this one, the NFC South.
Well, I'll tell you, I agree with you. I think the Falcons are not as bad as people think, but when you lose 3 games like that, that does come down to coaching. If I'm Arthur Blank, I'm firing Quinn right now, just to send a message to the team, because there is talent there and he's not maximizing it. So I think they're underrated, but it's like, look, you are what your record says you are. I think the Bucs haven't really played anybody. And you watch the ball come out of Tom Brady's hand, man, it looks like Greg Maddux pitching it, at the end of his career. It's coming out slow, man. And he has not had the pass rush on him, but the thing that's saving the Bucs right now is their defense. This Antoine Winfield kid, I loved him out of college, and he's looking legit. Their secondary looks better. Their whole defense looks better. So, I mean, right now I think the Bucs are the favorites. Saints, I don't know what I'm seeing out of them, and I will say watch out for the Panthers. I've been impressed by what they've done so far. I love Brian Burns, and Dwayne Brown showed up last week. They got a good defensive line. They can get after the quarterback. And so I'm excited about Carolina. They are a dark horse, I think, a sneaky wild card team, maybe.
Yeah, you're repping your city of residence there with the Panthers.
That's right. Hey, everybody here hates the Panthers. It's funny, like they are.
I mean, if they can survive for a few weeks without McCaffrey and he comes back, you never know what they could do, right? If McCaffrey maybe is only out for one more game after this, because this will be his second game out, I believe. He's on the IR. If he comes back after that third game and they're like right around 500, you never know. Mitch, what do you think?
Played pretty well. Sorry, Bridgewater.
Yeah, he has. And they beat the Chargers last week, which the Chargers are a good team. I know they had Herbert in, but I mean Herbert looked pretty good. We'll get to that in a second. But Mitch, thoughts on the NFC South from you?
I mean, I agree with almost everything that Adam had to say. I mean, the Falcons, I don't know what's going on with Dan Quinn, because that's a team, I mean, every year you look on that roster and you're like, they should be at least a competitive, potentially playoff football team, and they just seem to be below 500 year in and year out. I think he's done. I don't think he even makes it through this season at all. The Saints, I'm not too concerned about the Saints. Like you said, it's kind of, Dave, it's their early season has been a little tough for them, some tough games, but at the end of the day, it's Sean Payton, it's Drew Brees. They still got Alvin Kamara. Like, they got people. They'll
get Thomas back eventually.
Exactly. So I'm not too concerned about them. Panthers, they're not terrible. They can definitely, they'll beat some good football teams, but I don't think that this is a team that's realistically a playoff football team. And the Bucs, I don't really know what to think of the Bucs, to be honest. It feels like we're still unsure about them, about Tom Brady's fit with Bruce Arians. I think it'll all work out in the end, but 3 weeks in, I still don't really have an answer about them. So, if I had to really, gun to my head, hey, who do I think is winning this division? I mean, I'm going to go with my gut and probably go with the Saints still at this point.
Yep.
But
that's fair.
It's definitely, an interesting division for sure.
Yep. All right. Good stuff. So let's move into the very interesting NFC West. This is a division that top to bottom I thought was going to be one of the best in the league this year. And still maybe. The Niners are ravaged with injuries, as we know. Bosa's out for the year. Solomon Thomas out for the year. Not sure when Garoppolo may be back. They've had some injuries at running back. But they're surviving, right? They've had a pretty fortunate early season schedule. They've played the Jets. They played the Giants. So, they've had did they play the Giants? Am I misstating there? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they've had a pretty fortunate schedule early on. The Rams look pretty good. Obviously, they took us to the brink. And Seattle, Russ looks like the MVP right now through 3 weeks. And Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins look like a nice duo here. So, I mean, this division to me is like, it's kind of difficult to predict. I think Seattle's got to be the front runner right now. I don't know that anyone's really underachieving or overachieving. Every team's over 500. You got 3 teams at 2-1 and in Seattle at 3-0. So, I mean, unless you want to say maybe the Cardinals at 2-1 are overachieving, but I don't think so. I think they're pretty good, and I think this division is kind of right where it should be, and maybe the best division in football, arguably. Mitch, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, this is definitely the best division in the NFL. I think it's pretty obvious, and I got to be honest, I've been surprised, despite all the injuries. I know they haven't played a ton of good teams, but the fact that the 49ers are still hanging in there with everyone they lost, I think really, goes to show how good Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been, which is building that football team, because they got some, depth pieces that can still step up and contribute. This is a tough division to pick. I mean, I think that all 4 teams, I mean, if the Niners were healthy, maybe I could say this, but I'll say for right now, I think 3 out of the 4 teams in that division have a real shot of winning it. I think Seattle with Russell Wilson, I mean, he's been excellent, despite that defense has no pass rush. Doesn't seem to really matter at this moment. The Cardinals, I've been shocked by how well Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins have been playing together, despite this offseason. So, that division's tough to say. It could go really anyway. It's really, a lot of good teams. And the Rams are, when we all thought they were, buried and done, have seemed to kind of resurrect as this new identity, with this, running back by committee, and it's been working for them too. So listen, this division is, truly up for grabs, and all the four teams really have a shot at winning it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the question was asked earlier, what division will have 4 teams go to the playoffs? I think there's a legitimate possibility it could be the NFC West.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add a couple of things, Mitch. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'll add a couple of things. I've been impressed by the Cardinals' defense. I think they've really stepped up. I think they're playing really well. Losing Baker really hurts. And here's an odd question. I want to get your guys' take on this. First of all, I love the Seahawks. I picked Russell Wilson before the season to be the MVP, and I said he was the best quarterback in the NFL, and I still believe that. He's the best deep ball thrower. I mean, you watch that guy throw. I mean, it's effortless. It's beautiful. I mean, he's just dropping it in the basket. So, but here's the question I want to ask you guys. Is Nick Mullins maybe better than Jimmy Garoppolo? Just saying.
I'm not ready to go there yet, just based on the last 2 opponents that they played. The Jets might be the worst team in football, and the Giants might be the second worst team in football. So, and they might get Kittle back today. I don't know what the reports are on him. I don't know if he's coming back or not today, or if Mostert's coming back today. So, I still think Jimmy G's got the leg up. I like Mullins, though. I think as a backup, like the Niners, with the way their team's built, they could survive with Mullins. Like, that's a team where, they lose their starting quarterback. It's not like a Seattle losing a Russell Wilson, or even the Bills losing a Josh Allen. Like, they could plug in Mullins and still make a playoff run, win that, it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think I can go there either yet. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that investment on Jimmy G is starting to look a little shaky, with the fact that, even a couple of years ago, CJ Beathard, was producing in the system. So it makes you wonder if it's really more of the system rather than the quarterback. I'm not going to say there yet, but hey, if Nick Mullins keeps it up, I mean, it's not impossible that they decide to move on from Garoppolo. So you never know. But yeah, I think we'll stand back on that for right now.
I'm rooting for QB controversy. I think it'd be fun.
That would be fun. All right, let's move to the AFC. We'll start with the AFC West. So we've got the Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, who have been probably hurt by more injuries than almost any other team in the league. And then the Raiders, the Bills' opponent today. Obviously, the Chiefs kind of, they didn't look that great against the Chargers, but two of their 3 games, they've looked really well, really good. They look good against the Texans. They look good against the Ravens. The Chargers with Herbert now, we'll see how that kind of plays out, but they've looked pretty good with him. He's made some rookie mistakes, but he's had over 300 passing yards in both of his first 2 starts. The Raiders, I mean, they beat the Saints a couple weeks back, and their running game looks really good with Jacobs. They got a good offensive line. They've got players on defense. They haven't really gelled yet, but I like Gruden. And then Denver, I think, is kind of down and out. I don't think there's much to say else about them. They've had their starting quarterback out. He's not going to be back for several weeks. Cortland Sutton's out for the year. They've got some nice pieces on offense, but without that quarterback, and without Von Miller on defense, that defense doesn't maybe have the bite that it would have in a tough division. I don't know about them. So, again, for me, I look at this division and I kind of say, like, it's looking kind of how I would have thought. I thought if Denver was healthy, they may have been more of a competitive team, but with the injuries, I can't really see that. So Chiefs are still the class of this division. I don't really see any big surprises here. Adam, let's start with you on the AFC West and get your thoughts.
I think losing Sutton was much more important than losing Drew Lock. I got to tell you, I haven't seen that much out of Drew Lock yet. Frankly, this Rippin kid is playing pretty good. I know it was against the Jets, but man, I mean, he's, the game before he had 9 completions in a row. He had the 1 interception. But he's kind of fun to watch. And I'm not so sold on Drew Lock. They still have players on defense, but I do agree they've been so hurt. It's hard to do much for them. The Raiders this year remind me kind of the Raiders last year. I mean, today will prove a lot, right? But, the Raiders last year surprised some people that people were like, oh, it's a feisty team. But I think, I'm not that big a believer in Gruden, I guess. Like, I think he's so old school. I get it. They're going to get big. They got 4 tight ends they can throw at you. They can, run the ball. They're old school. But I don't know. There's a lot of tape on Gruden. And, I don't know that he was ever that great a coach. I'm just saying. I mean, And I like Herbert. I like the Chargers. I think they're going to be fun. I think that's the thing. This whole division is just kind of fun. But at the end of the day, it's Chiefs, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with what you just said about the Raiders. I actually do like John Gruden, but to be honest, I'm just not a believer in Derek Carr at all. I think, even in that win against the Saints, there were so many times that, I'm not even a fan of the Raiders, and I was like pulling my hair out of my head just watching him take sacks and just, his, inability to really push the ball down the field, I think is what's going to hurt them. They just don't really have a lot of down the field, play of, big playability, especially without Ruggs. So, I think this is a team that, is going to be a lot like last year where they got off to that fast start and sort of cooled off by the end of the season. The Broncos, had they been healthy, I think they could have definitely been competitive, but they're just decimated with injuries. There's just really nothing you can do there. The Chargers, they're, interesting team. Herbert's been a lot better than I think a lot of people anticipated. I think he was already a shaky quarterback prospect, but, he's played pretty well. But I don't know how much I believe in Anthony Lynn, to be honest, to get it done and win this division. After watching those, the Chiefs on Monday night against the Ravens, I just don't know how they don't win this division. And they, to me, looked like the best team in football that, the other night.
Yeah,
Agreed.
That's good. It's a good point. So let's move to the AFC South, where one of my division winners predictions from the beginning of the season is sitting at the bottom of the division at 0-3, and that's the Houston Texans. They're 0-3 now. Granted, they have played the Ravens, they've played the Chiefs, and they've played the Steelers. And outside of the Ravens losing to the Chiefs, their opponents have not lost a game other than that one game. Jacksonville's there at 1-2. I don't think that's a big surprise. The Colts there at 2-1, and Tennessee at 3-0. Now, this was a division that I had predicted before the season started that would get 3 teams in the playoffs: the Titans, Colts, and Texans. So I did have the Texans winning the division. I think there's still time for the Texans to kind of make a turnaround. They have talent on offense, but it's tough when you dig yourself into an 0-3 hole. And as a lot of people will probably point out, they're not big Bill O'Brien believers. So the Titans at 3-0, I think a lot of people figured they would be good. Colts are right there in the mix. A lot of people thought they'd be good. So are the Texans underachieving? I want to ask you guys this. Are the Texans underachieving, or are they just really not as good as maybe they were last year, or is it more of a factor of the schedule they played so far this year? And Mitch, let's start with you on this one.
I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest. I think they are underachieving a little bit, but at the same time, they've made some questionable roster moves, obviously, over the offseason, getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins. I think that they are feeling the full effect of that decision. And ultimately, their O-line is still not quite, gelling together, and Watson's still getting killed back there. And that's what it comes down to. If you don't have, a good old, it's a great comment right there. If you don't have a great O-line, it's, it's tough to win games in the NFL. I think this division, ultimately comes down to, it's going to be Colts, or it's going to be, I'm blanking out.
Titans.
Or the Titans. Yep. It's going to be one of those two teams. I just think that the Texans, they are kind of who they are at this point. I think that this is kind of Bill O'Brien's last year there. They just seem to be playing with not a lot of energy and motivation for him. So, that's kind of my thought on the Texans. I don't think they're going to be much this season, despite having, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah. The thing is, people sleep on Bill O'Brien. The guy's won this division a lot with really bad talent. But I think the defense is getting old. It's not looking good right now. I'm not impressed at all with what they're doing. Like you said, Mitch, the offensive line is not looking good. I'll tell you right now, Deshaun Watson, he looks panicky in the pocket. He looks like Lamar Jackson did against the Chiefs. Like, he just looks unsure. I'm not seeing a lot of really committed, confident decision making. I love Deshaun Watson. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but right now he looks scared back there. And so I agree. I think that they are, I think they'll be better, but because they have played amazing teams, but yeah, I just don't see the pieces, the thing that gives them an identity as a team. They don't see a great defense, or what do they do well? There's nothing there that I see yet, unless Watson puts it together, and he's going to have to put everything on his back. So, but I think I like the Titans a lot. That's a team. Give me a team that wins ugly. That tells me that team's got a lot of fortitude, a lot of character, and they've won ugly. And So I'm a believer. I was a believer in Tannehill when he was in Miami. I thought he was a better player than people thought. Obviously, Adam Gase has a track record of ruining quarterbacks. I'm sorry, Sam. Okay, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Okay, the Colts I think are good. They're fun. They're a solid team all around. I think they just got to minimize Phillip Rivers' mistake-prone nature. If they could kind of keep him throwing play action, 20 times a game, 25 times, make him throw high percentage throws, trust the defense, trust the running game, trust the offensive line, I think they'll be in a good spot. So Titans and Chiefs, I think, are looking good. And Jacksonville's fun, but look, that's what they are. They're just fun.
All right. I like that. I like what you said about the Titans winning ugly. That's kind of what we used to hope for the Bills before we had like a good offense, or what we think is going to be a good offense all year. So, we're a little bit used to that. All right. Before we get to the AFC East, let's just quickly talk about the AFC North. One of Adam's favorite players in the NFL, Baker Mayfield, as we all know. He's a big fan of his, and the Browns are sitting there at 2-1, along with the Ravens at 2-1. The Steelers are sitting there at 3-0 with Big Ben back at the helm. Obviously, they're not playing this week because of the move of the Steelers-Titans game to Week 7, and then the Bengals there 0-2-1, who have, in my opinion, played okay. I mean, I thought they played pretty well against the Chargers, took them down to the wire. Obviously, Bullock missed that kick at the end where it looked like he got hurt, and they had a chance to win that Eagles game, went to overtime and ended up in a tie. Against the Browns, they got a little bit overwhelmed, but I still think Burrow, in my mind, has looked pretty good through 3 games. I like what I've seen from him. The Browns, to me, and I hope Adam agrees with me here, the Browns to me are a facade. They're 2-1. I don't think they're that good. They have a good running game, I guess, but even I don't think Baker's played that well. They've relied a lot on the running game, and they beat Washington and Cincinnati as their 2 wins. So, you're talking about, they beat those teams that have a combined 1 win. So I'm not a believer in the Browns. I am a believer in the Steelers. I love that defense, and the Ravens as well. I think those 2 will be the ones at the end. The Ravens obviously lost to the Chiefs, but the Ravens, again, we're going to have this discussion about Lamar Jackson. What is he going to be? He was the MVP last year, but he didn't look that good against the Chiefs. And obviously his playoff record, we know it's been well talked about. So do you guys think this is now it's the Steelers again, or do you think it's the Ravens still at the top with Lamar, the reigning MVP? Adam, we'll start with you on the AFC North.
Let's start with the obvious one. Big mouth Baker Mayfield. He's a bum. Okay, let me tell you something. Nathan Peterman could be the starting quarterback for the Browns and would have had 2 wins because all he has to do is turn the ball around and hand off. He's good at it. I'll give him credit. He's good.
They've got great running backs, the Browns, between Hunt and Chubb. I mean,
their guards are playing really well. I mean, look, it's the thing about Baker Mayfield. You see it. It's like if you can get him off his spot. I mean, look. The the Washington team, apologies, old habits die hard. But the Washington team, they were in that game, giving them a hard time until their rookie defensive end, got hurt with a groin injury, and that changed the game. But Baker Mayfield, he is what he is. He's a game manager at best. I mean, but they can win games running that way, as long as their defense is stout, plays well. But you're right, they haven't beaten anybody.
Hot take from Elliott here: Ravens are most overrated team in the NFL.
I won't say that. Okay, really quick, Joe Burrow. I really like what I've seen out of this kid. They're making him throw too much, though. He's getting killed in the pocket.
He is getting killed.
Yeah, you could have a David Carr situation with him if you don't take care of him because he is getting smashed back there. He took some shots. He's tough. I'll give him credit. He's better than I thought he'd be. But they gotta run the ball more. They've got to stop having them get killed back there. I picked the Steelers to win the division. I think that they're not even looking that great. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to improve. Their defense is going to improve. It seems like this year defenses are catching up to offenses. You see that with the Bills defense. They're not playing great right now. But I think the Steelers are their stock is going to go up. The Ravens, I think the thing with the Ravens is, and you saw it last week on Monday night, people do have tape on Lamar. We have seen him, not many times, but, good teams that have the personnel can hem him in. And there are ways to beat him. So I'm curious to see how they go. I think both those 2 teams make the playoffs, but I think the Steelers are going to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you had to say, Adam. I mean, I think that with the Browns, I mean, at the end of the day, they got Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and their offensive identity is running the football, like that. For most teams,
and Hooper, they paid Hooper in the offseason.
They paid Hooper, they paid Conklin to give Mayfield time, and yet so the Browns to me just they since that first year with Baker, they just haven't felt right. It's something that has been weird with them. I think part of it is Baker kind of there was a year of film on him, and defenses have figured out what his weaknesses are, and they're just exposing that. With the Bengals, I mean, Joe Burrow has been way better than I thought. Like you said, I agree. He's going to absolutely kill behind that horrible line. They got to either, throw it, some quick passes underneath or run the ball or something, because he's not going to make it, the way they're using him. It comes down to the Ravens and the Steelers, though, in this division. And, the Steelers, I think, have probably the best defensive front in the NFL. That D front can come after the quarterback relentlessly all game. That's tough for anyone to go against. If Big Ben can continue to, get more, kind of back up to speed and everything, I think that they could absolutely win this division, because he's been playing. I've been, kind of surprised. I thought he'd be,
he's my comeback player of the year pick. Ben was
coming off a serious elbow injury and a throwing arm at 38, and he's still playing at a pretty high level. I mean, I think you gotta, be pretty impressed with them. So I think they're also my favorites to win this division, but. As far as Baltimore being overrated, I don't think so. I think that it's a little concerning that Lamar has not played his best in the biggest games, in his career so far. I think that's something to definitely monitor moving forward. But I mean, that's still a great football team, and they're still really well coached. So I think it's going to come down to probably those two football teams.
Yeah, I like Harbaugh a lot as a coach. I think he's a good coach. So now, last but not least, we're going to use the rest of the time that we've got in this segment to talk about the AFC East and our Bills. Sitting atop at 3-0. Pats are there at 2-1. We've got the Dolphins at 1-2, coming off that win, that Thursday night win against Jacksonville, and then the Jets. My goodness, 0-4, and it's just. I just laugh because the Jets already played this week and they're sitting there at 0-4. It just adds a little bit more insult to injury there to see that they've played 4 games and haven't won a game yet. Lost to Ripon and the Broncos the other night on Thursday night on a battle of dumpster fires. So what do we think, guys? Let's start with the obvious question. Are the Bills for real at 3-0? I think we know the answer, but were we too quick to dismiss the Pats? And I know, Adam, you still kind of talked highly about the Pats, as did I. But maybe we'll start with you, Mitch, and see what were your thoughts on the Pats with Cam Newton. Obviously, he's on the COVID list now, but did you kind of see the Pats as still lingering, still being a threat, or even still being the team to beat going into this year, or like where did you come out on them? Because that was kind of like a polarizing opinion there.
At the start of the season, I kind of thought that the Patriots were going to be, maybe a 8-10, 9-win football team. Thought that, they'd run the ball, play good defense, but I've been surprised by how well Cam Newton's been playing. I mean, I know that he, former MVP, obviously, we know how good he can be, but he's been injured for a while. And, obviously with Cam on the COVID list, I think this is going to really, we'll see how this goes. I guess we're going to get a look at Jarrett Stidham, who everyone claimed was, going to be, the next franchise quarterback for the Patriots during the offseason, which, I personally wasn't so sure about that. But, I think 3 weeks in if they can hang in there without Cam, now he's on this COVID list, I think that they can totally compete for the division. I think they're absolutely a playoff team, to be honest. So they've been a lot better than I thought, specifically offensively. I thought defensively we'd see the same, but offensively their passing attack has been way better than I anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Newton is Rodney Dangerfield, man. He gets no respect, and it's a real shame. I mean, and I picked the Patriots to win this division. I still think they're going to. I like what I'm seeing out of the Bills, Josh Allen, but I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like how our defense is playing. I don't like the way our offensive line is playing. I don't like how we're using the running backs. Like we need to be. I mean, Devin Singletary had 12 carries last week when we were up by 25 points. I'm sorry, that's when you run the ball. Mr. Dayball, I know you get cute. I love what I'm seeing out of the receivers and out of Allen, but I'm sorry, we're going to compete and beat the Patriots. It was Rodney Dangerfield.
that's a troll job from Steve-O, I think.
Steve-O, go drink your seltzer, bro. No, but I mean, The Patriots team, they're well coached, so they're they don't make mistakes. And look, last week they piled up 250 rushing yards, and they can do that. They can, like you said, Mitch, they can still throw the ball. They're not like, I want to see what they do when they get behind like 15 points, see how they respond. That might be their kryptonite, but their defense is still playing solid. And I have a lot of questions about the Bills. And the problem with the Bills, the way they're playing right now, it's kind of like the Houston Rockets, in basketball. It's like, it's all 3-pointers, right? And if Allen's hitting on his bombs, he's, high percentage throws, he's not making turnovers, fine. Yeah, you can win that way. But if you don't have a backup plan, if your defense can't hold up, if you can't run the ball or you choose not to run the ball, I think that's a lot of pressure on Allen. I don't want to see that. I want to see them become more balanced, and I want to see that defense play better. Watch out for Miami. They're kind of fun to watch. I'm just saying. And the Jets, I think it's hilarious. I enjoy it.
So because Adam, you were when we did our preseason predictions, you were the only, when we did that kind of MVP lineup on Buffalo Fanatics, and we had the that big pregame vidcast. You were the only one of the group to pick the Pats to win the division, and I think you were the only one of the group to have 2 AFC East teams making the playoffs. But now, honestly, the way that things are kind of playing out, there may be a good chance that 2 AFC East teams make the playoffs, whether that's the Bills winning the division or the Pats. If these 2 teams kind of continue on the trajectory, you could see, a couple 10-win teams potentially. I mean, the schedule gets tougher for the entire division as we move forward. Obviously, Bills have a rough slate coming up after the Raiders. They have to play the Titans, Chiefs, and so forth. The Pats the same. Eventually, they were supposed to play. I think the game, was it officially moved to Monday at 7? They're playing the Chiefs, I think is what I read. So that'll be a tough game for them.
Okay, it is official? I didn't know that.
I think so. Mitch is shaking his head yes, so I'm going to go with what he's saying. I think I read that before we came on the air. So I have to agree with that, what Adam's saying here around the comparison to the Houston Rockets. I mean, we are throwing up a lot of 3-pointers. The defense, one thing that Steve and I kind of discussed was kind of compared this a little bit, the defense at least, and I think other people have mentioned this too. It's you go back and you look at the great defenses in history, you talk about one single season, right? 85 Bears, 2000 Ravens, 2017 Jaguars. You don't talk about defenses as being this sustained unit over a long period of time. Jacksonville 2 years ago or 3 years ago was in the AFC Championship game with an awesome defense and Blake Bortles at quarterback. Their defense now just got trounced, 2 years later by the Miami Dolphins. And I know personnel has changed, but I've always said it's way easier to sustain a high-powered offense, or at least a good offense, than it is to sustain an elite defense. So it comes down to, are we now going to be, can the defense rebound a little bit? Because they have to come back a little bit, but are we going to be now the team that relies on the offense, which is kind of unusual for us. It's kind of unusual for Bills fans to kind of accept that in a way. But that may be kind of, as we see more games played and we see kind of really what this team's going to be, that may be what we're looking at for this team, which, to be honest with you, for the long term is not such a bad thing, right? Because then the capital you put into players and the money you put into players, you can kind of somewhat do what the Chiefs did in a way, right? You can kind of invest in a couple big name defensive guys, but you don't have to have a super elite defense to win. So that still may be a problem for the Bills this year with the Patriots lurking. And I think Elliot or Chris said that Hoyer was starting for the Pats. I have to check on that. I thought it was Stidham, but if it's Hoyer, I mean, it's the same thing, right? I mean, it's to me, it's the same. They're not going to beat the Chiefs with Hoyer or Stidham playing. At least in my mind, I would never see that happening. Mm-hmm. But at this rate, the Bills 3-0, with the schedule coming up today, this game's really important. This Raiders game to the Bills, this is a team you should beat. You're a road favorite. The Raiders are severely banged up, and Steve and I are going to talk about this probably heading into the where we go off the air. But man, you got to win this game today if you're the Bills, knowing that the Titans are on deck and then the Chiefs are in the on deck circle for prime time. So Jeff, thank you. Wow, appreciate that, Jeff. Big time super chat from Jeff. Nice job, guys. And we're not done yet. We still got another 30 minutes before we sign off. And then Joe and Spence are going to come on for later for the pregames.
What?
So, no, but that's his lucky Flutie jersey.
Yeah,
He
come
can't
on,
get rid
guys.
of it. He can't. That's his lucky Flutie jersey.
This thing is a Puma, bro. Look at this. That's old school.
Oh wow. So,
I bet people forgot Puma actually did do jerseys like for the NFL.
Yeah, they
Way
did
back in the
for
day.
like a year or two. So we're kind of closing in at the end of this segment. So obviously before we go, we got to get your guys' thoughts on Bills Raiders and what your thoughts are for the game. Quick summary and your predictions. Mitch, I'm going to start with you. Quick summary on how you think this game's going to go and your prediction.
You know what? I actually think this is going to be kind of a sloppy, low-scoring game. Believe it or not, I think that we can't expect the offense to produce the way they've been producing every single week. I think that eventually Josh Allen's not going to throw for 300 yards in a game. I actually think the defense will come back this week just because that Raiders offense does not have a lot of explosive big play ability outside of Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs right now. So I'm going to go with the Bills winning, but ugly. I'm thinking probably 24-17, but it's going to be gritty, physical. A lot of running. That's my prediction. So
I like it.
I'm going to take the Bills, I guess. I mean, it's a tough one. I think we're really going to miss Star Lotulelei. Like we missed him last week. And the let's face it, yes, the Raiders are banged up, but they can get big on offense and they can run it down your throat. And if we don't have an answer to that running game, well, Derek Carr is going to look a lot better. I also think Allen's going to make some mistakes today. I wouldn't be surprised if he had an interception or two, just because I don't know if he can sustain this high. And again, so much pressure's on him. I'd love to see us commit to the run game, have our defense play solid. We've got to stop the run because the pass comes off of that. So thank you, Elliot. But no, I think the Bills will win, but I think it's going to be nerve-wracking. I think this is like Mitch said, it's going to be an ugly game. And I'm worried a little bit about Allen, and I'm worried a lot about, that run defense. So hopefully we see them, play a little more stout. I don't think they have to play great. I just think, if they can kind of get to middle of the pack, but they looked rough last week. We really didn't stop the Rams at all. They were moving the ball in the first half. People forget that. There was the interception, the missed field goal.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm wondering if Josh Norman is going to be put on their superstar tight end. Just sort of like, hey, here's your guy, because he's a big cornerback. He might be able to handle a tight end. That'd be fun, maybe.
I say don't sleep on Hunter Renfrow either, because middle of the field's been bad for the Bills defense. He could do some damage over the middle. He's a very good route runner. So, Adam, what's your score prediction then for this game?
I'm going to say 24-23. And I want to see AJ Epinesa. I think he's looked good so far. I know Oliver's hurt, banged up, but man, I want to see a little more out of him. Those two guys I'm going to be really watching on that defensive line. But I'll tell you, I like what I see out of Epinesa. And don't be surprised if you see another, his first 100-yard game out of Gabriel Davis. So that's a nice bold prediction. Okay, so your bold prediction, spicy hot takes 100 for Gabe Davis. Before we let you guys go, Mitch, do you have a bold prediction for the game? Any bold predictions?
Ooh, bold prediction. You know what? I think that Devin Singletary will have. I'm gonna go. He's gonna have over 100 yards rushing today, and I think he's gonna have over 40 yards receiving. I think it's a big day from Singletary. I think they're going to use him a lot in the pass game and try to get, because I thought he looked great last week, honestly. I was like Adam, I wanted to see more Singletary. I thought he was, especially right towards the end of the half. So, 5.5
yards a carry. I
mean, exactly. Yeah.
He was toting the rock. Yeah.
Exactly.
If we have that stat line, we'll win today and we'll win big. If that's true, man, Mitch, that would make me happy.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, and I appreciate you handling the impromptu around the NFL review. You guys did awesome. I love the opinions. I think we had some good agreements, some good, somewhat differing opinions, which is always nice. So thank you guys, as always, for joining. This segment will be wrapping up, and the next segment will have me and the judge back together as we lead into the 1 p.m. kickoffs. Followed by Jay Spence and Joe Miller right before the Raiders-Bills game kicks off. So Adam and Mitch, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it, guys.
All right. I'm good.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and the Bills guys are back together again to close out the morning, the mid-afternoon session of the tailgate. And we got a special thing for you guys today. So we've been working really hard to try to bring you guys the best pregame coverage that we can. I appreciate that. It's really nice when people aren't yelling at me in the comments.
You're starting to get a cult following, man. People are loving it.
And I really do appreciate that. But we've been brainstorming and trying to figure out the best way to bring you guys pregame coverage. And so what we decided to do today was to bring you our typical morning show leading up into the 1 p.m. kickoffs. Then take a little break, let everyone watch their football. And then once the inactives come out around 3:15, you guys will be joined by Jay Spence, the King, and Joe Miller, the Hump Day Hotline guys, to take you into the Buffalo Bills game. So, I mean, we've got like 4 hours worth of coverage today. Before, Dave, we get started, a couple of things. First of all, Mitch and Adam, spectacular. Love those two dudes.
They were awesome.
We got to find roles for them here on the pregame show, on the vidcast. Those guys are awesome. And second, I need everybody to understand that just because I am feeling a little self-conscious about the bod lately, and I've been drinking, some of the skinny bitches, I don't want to bring the reputation of the rest of the crew down with me. Kyle texted me pretty upset that people were, judging his drinking habits because he was talking about seltzers, but he wants everyone to know that he's
drinking coffee. It's 12:30. I'm drinking coffee still. So
he's sipping on bourbon right now, or whiskey or something like that. He wants you guys to know that he's drinking the stuff that puts hair on your chests, not the stuff that trims hair off your balls. Hey, if you're interested in Manscaped, 20% off using the promo code Fanatics.
Yeah, and Elliot's given a clap here to Mitch and Adam. I mean, Adam, what I love about Adam is he's very he has very good conviction with his opinions, and he's not afraid to go against the grain a little bit, which I like. He was the only one to pick the Pats to win the division. He was the only one who thought there were going to be two AFC East teams in the playoffs out of our crew. And he's looking, he's got a very well thought out view on things. And if you're not listening to him and Nate on the basement, if you like to kind of go around the NFL a bit outside of the Bills, that's the show to listen to, man. They have a good dynamic, those two. Yeah,
a couple of comments here. Elliot says, I'm too short for mic stand. I'm not going to lie to you. I just don't like it. I always knock it over. Like I'm a very much a hands talker, so I always knock it over. So I'm just like, I'm over the mic stand life. I think one of these days I'm going to get those ones where it clamps to the side of the table and you put it in front of your face. One of these days I'll get those ones. But I'm trying to, save the cash right now a little bit. But and then you got Chris Jenke coming in. I think he's talking about our shirts, man. We're twinning today. Coming in with the McDermott clap. We are both.
Oh, your logo is a little smaller than mine. My logo is maybe a little too big.
Yeah,
I don't know. We both.
From.
I mean, I got mine a couple years ago. It's the Nike. I mean, it's similar. It's similar. Mine's not as skin tight as yours, though.
Yeah, well, I'm working. Like I said, I'm working on the
show off those guns.
The goal is to get the McDermott pecs by year end. Have those McDermott pecs.
Got to get those push-ups in.
All right, so let's start talking about let's start talking about some Bills football here, and me and Nap started to get into it in the 11 o'clock hour, and we were talking about the over-unders, and we like to make bold predictions and talk about over-unders and talk about scenarios and work our way through the game. We talked about Josh Jacobs, and I want to get your opinion on Josh Jacobs because clearly he's the person that we need to stop today. It's him, it's Darren Waller. That's their offense. That's it. I mean, Nelson Aguilar scares no one. Zay Jones scares no one. Hunter Renfrow, he can have a good catch here or there, but really doesn't scare anyone. This offense is going to be very much Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs. Yep. My over-under to him was, does Josh Jacobs have over 100 rushing yards? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. I think it's going to be, I mean, kind of what Adam was saying and Mitch was saying a little bit. It's going to be a little sloppy today. I think it's going to be a game where, like I predicted on Thursday, there's going to be a lot of, the clock's going to be running a lot. Thanks, Pierre. Love you guys. He must still be a little loopy from his birthday hangover there.
Yeah,
the love for us. But really though, I worry until the Bills show me that they can stop the run. I'm going to be worried about our ability to stop the run, especially because last week it was Darrell Henderson that was running all over us. It wasn't Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is one of the best young running backs in the league. The Raiders have a very good offensive line from a run blocking standpoint. And I think it's going to be a sloppy, like very run heavy game from the Raiders. I don't see why they wouldn't do that. So I think they're going to possess the ball. And I think Jacobs is, he wasn't on the injury report this week as far as limited practices. He was full practice all week coming off, he was limited the week before and ended up playing. He still had a decent game against New England. So if I'm Las Vegas, I'm toting the rock with him 25 times, and I think he's going to get over 100. Yeah, I'll say over 100.
Yeah, see, and this is where I disagree with you a little bit, because I don't know. Like I made this comment. This is going to be the third time I made this comment. So if you've been with us all morning, I apologize. But Bill's Overdue is really interested in getting this graphic up, so I'm just going to give it to him. Jerry and Max, that's just what they do. But
that's what they do. They bring the comedy.
But I made this comment. This is the third time I made this comment this morning, so I do apologize for those of you who've been with us the whole time. But this isn't the Rex Ryan coach Bills. After last week where we absolutely fell apart in the second half, we missed tackles. Schematically, it wasn't there. We were playing vanilla. We were playing soft. There wasn't the what you used to see. Oh, Rex Ryan's throwing his players under the bus. The players are throwing Rex Ryan under the bus. The secondary is blaming the defensive line. The defensive line is blaming the second. Like, you didn't see that. You don't see that from the Buffalo Bills. What the culture that Sean McDermott has created is they show up to practice this week, they reflect on what went wrong, and they fix it. And there are too many guys with too much pride on that defense, whether it's Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer and Trey White and Josh Norman in that secondary, where it's Edmonds and Milano at linebacker, up front with Hughes, Addison, Murphy. There's a bunch of veterans up front as well. There's just too many veterans. There's too much pride, and there's too much talent on this defense for, I think, them to come out flat again 2 weeks in a row. And I think the emphasis this week is not going to be on the nickel prevent defense like we sort of played against the Rams. But I think you're going to see a lot more A.J. Klein this week, a lot of stacking the box, a lot of just keeping everything in front of us in the passing game. And I think that Josh Jacobs is going to be the focus. And I think due to that, I think we hold them under 100 yards. And a caveat to that is I also think that the Buffalo Bills throw the ball all over the Oakland Raiders today, and we put up so many points that they have to go away from the run. So those two things combined have me confident that Josh Jacobs won't go over 100 yards. But I totally see where you're coming from, because, I mean, whether it was Adrian Peterson last year or it was Jordan Howard last year or Miles Sanders, we've seen our team, Darrell Henderson last week, we see our team get worked by some of these running backs.
Dan Brown says, hey, sorry for the late reply. It's 6:30 in Hawaii. Man, Dan, don't apologize for living in Hawaii, man. Dude. I think we're all jealous about that. That's amazing.
Dan Brown he's got two choices, really. And it might be a little bit different now because it's a 4:00 start. So I think if I were Dan, and maybe if I was a little younger, I might consider not going to bed on Saturday night and just drinking my way into the
for a 1 p.m. game, of course. Yeah, I would do that.
For a 1 p.m. I might just consider drinking my way into that 1 p.m. game if you're living in Hawaii. I don't know, Dan, how you live your life. I don't know if you have the problems that I do with alcohol, but
well, what you were saying about Jacobs makes sense, and for the Bills to focus, but that comes down to execution, right? And the execution's been a little sloppy, right? So can they clean up all of that? Can they clean up all of that from a schematic and an execution standpoint in 1 week? They can, right? It's possible. Yes, certainly possible. But I'll just still go the over. I mean, I like that we're kind of on opposite sides of that, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, speaking of taking the over, I'm pretty confident in taking the over on this next one I got. Let's shift our focus to the Bills offense, who I think is going to have a big day today. Over under 400 yards of offense for the Bills offense today. They've been averaging 434 for the season. What do you got?
Total offense, 400? Wow, that's a good number. I'll say under. I'm going to say under. I think, I think there's got to be, and unless this is like truly how good our offense is going to be, I see a slight bit of regression here. Not that it's going to be bad by any means. I don't think it's going to be bad, but I say 3 games has been awesome. We've been awesome moving the ball. I think that there might be a little regression coming. I hope not, but I think maybe if we're right around that 375 mark on total offense today, that'd be kind of my guess.
I'm rolling with Davion here. He says over. We got to get used to this new high-powered offense. And I actually had this conversation with Nat earlier, where someone said, "Are we being overconfident as Bills fans?" Until somebody comes in and shuts us up, I'm sick of being of stepping on eggshells. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just sick and tired of waiting for this offense to come back down to earth. And saying every week, just like, I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll keep. I'm done until someone brings it down to earth. I'm rolling with it, baby. I'm rolling with it.
I'm not saying we're gonna go from like 430 yards to like 200. I'm saying we're still gonna be close to 400. I'll just say we'll go slightly under. Andrew asks, you guys coming back on before 4? We will not be, but Jay Spence and Joe Miller will be coming on. I think at 3:15, right?
3:15.
So we get to hear, as Elliot and Chris say, that sweet buttery voice of Joe Miller to lead you into the game. So we will not be, but but they will. Regression can come after the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, sure, why not?
Well, first of all, the NFL needs to get its shit together because the Bills are 3-0. The Bills are looking good, and they're trying to ruin it for us by not having the proper protocols in place. So hopefully, the NFL can get its shit together, and we can play some football in these upcoming weeks. But anyway, I digress. Let's not have a conversation. Let's talk about Bills Raiders. Let's focus on Sunday at 4:25, and let's save all of that for.
I don't like this 4:25, man. I'm sitting here waiting, but just like I got to find stuff to like. Man.
I'm gonna pass out drunk before this game.
My wife's team, the Packers aren't playing. My wife's team's not playing till Monday night. I got to find a game to like watch and just like kind of distract myself.
My original plan was it's our what they call it, like a gotcha day for our dog. So today's our gotcha day for our dog, and my fiance was really upset because I'm doing the pregame show and it's early in the morning here. So we usually take the dog to the dog park in the morning, and we were gonna go to the dog park at right when the show's over, which is about 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. West Coast time. But I'm thinking real hard. The Cardinals play the Panthers in the early
1 o'clock.
1
o'clock game.
So I'm thinking maybe I can,
which is rare for them to play at 1.
I'm thinking maybe I can convince the fiance to, instead of going to the dog park, taking the dogs to her parents' house and watching the Cardinals game with the in-laws while the dogs are still playing.
They're Cardinals fans, right? So you probably could sell. You could sell that. I think you could.
I think I can sell it. I'm feeling pretty confident, and I like that a lot. I can still watch football because
DeAndre Hopkins is active for them today. There was a question mark about that, so he is going to play. I love watching the Cardinals. Actually, so I'll probably watch that game too.
Mm-hmm. Here's my advice to people: don't stop drinking. If you're drinking, don't stop. It's when you stop that you get tired. So just keep on drinking. But all right, Bills offense, I think they're going to fire on all cylinders today. I think Josh Allen is going to absolutely pick apart the secondary. The safeties are big and bulky. I think that guys like Diggs and Davis and Brown can get up over the top. I think that their linebackers have struggled this year, and I think guys like Devin Singletary can have a big day in the screen game. And, Devin Singletary can get his 15 to 20 touches, go over his 100 yards. Josh Allen can throw 300 plus. And I think this offense can easily get over 400 yards if, number one, if they execute properly, and number two, if the defense can get the Raiders offense off the field, because the Raiders with Josh Jacobs and the yards after catch in that West Coast offense, they can eat a lot of clock if the
Buffalo. And that's why
it's job.
Yeah, and that's why I think I'm going under, because I don't know that we're going to see as many possessions. The Bills may be super efficient on offense, which would be great, but I mean, are they going to have enough possessions to kind of do that? And if Singletary's chewing out yards on the ground too, and that clock's moving for both sides, Mitch made the bold prediction right before we went off that he thought Singletary was going to go over 100 rushing and over 40 receiving. And Adam said, if he does that, we're going to run away with this. So if Singletary has that big of a game and we don't win, something really wrong happened.
I might have to get Richard my Sunday ticket password. That poor man.
We need to get Richard the lawnmower to get him trimmed up.
No, I might have to get him my Sunday ticket password because he's got to
watch the game. Yeah,
Browns Bengals. Come on, we got to get better in the 1 o'clock hour. All right. So speaking of high-powered offense, let's talk about the receiver and let's talk about the distribution of the ball to wide receivers today. I'm pretty confident that Stephon Diggs is going to have one of his 100-plus yard day today. Are you pretty confident this is the game where Stephon Diggs is going to get targeted a lot and he's going to be pushing those triple digits in yards?
I think he will push it. I think his stat line will end up somewhere similar to what he had in week 1, which is around that 8 for 90, 7 for 90, 8 for 80, maybe and a touchdown. I would still say he's going to be under 100, but all it takes is one big play from him. I think the key for me is the targets. I think he's going to get targeted a lot, and I think he's going to be able to pick on those corners. Is he going to be? He's probably going to be matched up against Trayvon Mullen, I would imagine, most of the day, which is a mismatch. Although Trayvon has been playing good, and I'm a big Trayvon stan going back to the draft process. So
he's your guy, man.
He was my guy. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. But yeah, I think Diggs, he'll be, I think, 7, 8, 9 catches for around 90 yards or so. He'll be flirting with that triple, that century mark in yardage, I think.
I'm having flashbacks now to these draft conversations that we had about Trayvon Mullen. And I said one of the biggest concerns I had with Trayvon Mullen was he struggles down the field, like with those deep balls. He struggles to turn on those deep balls and to turn his head. And a guy like Stephon Diggs or even a guy like John Brown, if they get matched up on Trayvon Mullen and they get past him, Trayvon Mullen is going to struggle to turn his head and run with those corners or run with those receivers. So if Diggs and Brown can get past them, Knapp's bold prediction was that we're going to see a 60-plus yard touchdown today. And between Nevin Lawson and Trayvon Mullen, I think it's really possible that Josh Allen could connect on a deep ball that far down the field today. But again, it's all about execution. Josh has got to keep hitting those deep balls. He's got to keep putting the ball on the money. He's got to keep leading the receivers, in a way that they can make those plays. So
I'll take it a step further and say that bold prediction of 60+ will not be to Diggs. It'll be to someone else. Really? It'll be to either Brown if he plays or to Davis.
I think he said Gabe Davis on his prediction.
Yeah, Davis. There you go.
It was so long ago. It was like an hour and a half ago. I don't remember. Not even that.
You blacked out since then.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple of other interesting topics here. We just talked about Stephon Diggs. Let's talk about the complementary receivers. And I think the big one today will be Gabe Davis versus John Brown, especially for people in fantasy out there, because we got John Brown dealing with the calf injury. We got Gabe Davis, who was on the rise last week. How do you think wide receiver 2 is going to shake out today?
Man, obviously we don't know the inactives yet, but it looks like John Brown's going to play. But you always worry about these soft tissue things, whether it's hamstring, calf, whatever. And John Brown, a guy who relies a lot on very much full speed to kind of quick stop type, curls and things like that. It makes me worry a little bit about John Brown. And Davis has been, he's been consistent, the first couple games. I think if you're John Brown and you're the Bills, maybe you actually, it's going to maybe sound a little counterintuitive, but maybe you actually send him on more just deep routes and fly routes so that he doesn't have to start and stop as much on that calf as he would otherwise. So I could see a situation maybe where John Brown's volume is really low, but maybe he hits a big play like a 40-yarder or a 50-yarder, but he only comes away with 2 or 3 catches in this game. And I could see Davis maybe as being the more of the volume guy on some of those intermediate kind of depth routes, like the 15 to 20-yard types. So from a volume perspective, I would say if Brown's playing, I think Davis might actually get more targets than Brown in this game, but it's really hard. It's really hard to say. Like Beasley's kind of been the forgotten guy, although I don't think he's going to have a great game today, but he's been super consistent the first 3 games. The target shakeouts have been fairly consistent, I would say, over the first couple of weeks. It's been Diggs and it's been Beasley, obviously Brown missing some of the game last week, and Davis is right there. So I don't necessarily think we're going to get away from that. But I could see a situation where today specifically, maybe John Brown has a little bit lower volume and maybe more of yards per catch, I would say, if they want to send him, to save that calf a little bit.
No, I like that take a lot too, because of all the defenses we're playing this year, for a guy like John Brown to take the top off, that would be great. Just keep send him out there to run those fly routes, and that's going to open up everything else for guys like Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Cole Beasley running crossers. Cole Beasley's got a tough test today on LaMarcus Joyner, who's a pretty good nickelback. We've also got a question here from Trek Reviewer. Do we know if Knox is playing? Knox will be playing today. The question is, there's a ton of questions now. So Cole Beasley could be less of a factor because of Joyner. Is it going to be Knox or is it going to be Croft? Is it going to be a split? What's going on? So my question to you, all these secondary pieces in our offense, whether it be Singletary in the passing game, Knox, Croft, Beasley, McKenzie, who's the one who maybe shows up and has a big game today or makes a big type of game-changing play? Last week it was Tyler Croft and Cole Beasley. Who do you think it's going to be this week?
That's a great question. I think it could be a tight end, whether it's Croft or Knox. I really do. I think that the linebackers for Vegas aren't like great matchups for our tight ends, meaning I think we have an advantage there. Knox, I mean, he's out of concussion protocol, right? So he's going to play, and it's not like he's battling. It's not like he battled like an ankle or like a leg injury, so he should be 100%. And the thing with Knox is like what you've been kind of like, maddening about him is like he has these like spectacular plays, but then he also has these kind of like mental lapses where he drops like easy catches. But he could be due for like one of those angry runs today, man. I could see Knox having like a big play like that, like a one catch for like 35 yards, maybe where he bowls over a couple people. Could be the difference. Maybe it's a touchdown too. So I'll say, maybe Knox gets it. It'll be super low volume, but I think he will. I think he could have a really nice sort of like splash play in this game.
Yeah, we got an interesting prediction here from Andrew Miller.
I thought about that too.
They lack athleticism in that linebacking core. Whether it's, Corey Littleton's been struggling this year, but he's a really good linebacker that I've liked in the past. But whether it's McMillan or whether it is Kwiatkowski, they're not the most athletic at their other linebacker spot, and it's going to be really interesting because you're going to see them in a lot of nickel. So it's going to be two linebackers. It's going to be LaMarcus Joyner out there in the nickel. So it'll be really interesting to see if they utilize McKenzie on those. Just challenge the linebackers, whether it's utilizing McKenzie, it's utilizing Singletary, it's a Knox on a tight end screen from the Pullout King here. It's get a little bit creative to take some of the pressure off those outside receivers and to even take a little bit of pressure off of Cole Beasley. Because, I think we need to re-envision the way we're using our tight ends right now. I think I would almost prefer to see Knox as maybe the guy who is the traditional tight end and is the guy who's out there in traditional tight end sets. But I think I'd almost like to see us start using Dawson Knox like we use Isaiah McKenzie and draw up and scheme up plays for him. Because I do think he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. He's got to get better catching. He's got to get better, holding onto the football. All of those things I understand. But I do still think he's a weapon. And I do still think he can develop, and he's got a ceiling. And I'm not willing to give up on him like a couple of people have been coming at me saying, like, he's done. Start Croft. Let's start over in the offseason at tight end. Like, I'm not willing to do that yet. I think that Dawson Knox can still be a very good number 2 tight end because of his run blocking ability. He's a very vicious blocker and a very smart blocker and a good blocker. We could be utilizing him at fullback because he's got that athleticism to play that sort of fullback position in that pistol that we run. And start scheming up plays for him, as we mentioned, with that tight end screen and things of that nature. Get him on some crossers. Do something to get the ball on Dawson Knox's hand because I think he can take advantage of those linebackers. Just in the same vein that Isaiah McKenzie or Devin Singletary could. Croft can't do that. Croft is a catch the ball over the middle because he's big and tall kind of guy. He can't do.
And I almost said McKenzie. McKenzie because you remember that Titans game last year. He had such a key play for us down the stretch of that Titans game. It was like a 40, 50-yard play, but it was just the one play. But those plays and, this, like you're predicting this isn't going to necessarily be a sloppy game, but those types of plays could be, game-changing type plays. So I'd like to see Knox too, though, personally.
All right. We are hitting the 9:45 hour here. So I got a couple more questions. How many more do we want to roll through here? I'm going to say, let's skip the guard rotation because we'll just see what it is. We'll just see what it is. Do you have any pressing thoughts on the guard rotation?
No, don't want to see Brian Winters in there today. That's all. That's my opinion. I'd like
over under 2 sacks for our defense today.
Under. I think Carr's too like his game's all about the quick passing game, short passing game. I don't know that you're gonna see Carr with a lot of 5 and 7 7-step dropbacks, like trying to air it out with the weapons that he's going to have available today. So I could kind of see it being like a Fitzpatrick type situation where he gets it out quickly. 2 is a good number. We've had I think we had 3 against Fitzpatrick and 2 or 3 against Goff. So that's a good number, but I'll say under just because I think that it just seems like that we're not going to have a lot of chances, I guess, to sack him.
Yeah. Over under 1 turnover forced.
Over under 1 turnover force. I'll say push. I think it's 1. I think we get 1 takeaway today.
Yeah,
I think it's not a fumble. I don't think it's an interception. I think it's a fumble.
I'm not feeling confident on the turnovers on our defense right now. I'm just not. Until I start seeing it, I'm not really feeling confident. And a lot of it has to do with the NFL rule changes, right? We've had this discussion now. They're not calling the ticky-tack stuff. And one of the ticky-tack things is holding, which is really disrupting our ability to disrupt the quarterback. And it's really disrupting our ability to get at the quarterback and force those pressures that I think are needed to bring turnovers. So either Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier need to figure out another way to scheme a pass rush, or the NFL referees got to come back around. Either way, I'm just not feeling confident in our ability to force turnovers and get the pressure necessary to force turnovers.
Yep.
So that brings us to everyone's favorite part, the predictions. Yep. And I honestly don't remember who goes first, and we literally did this on Thursday. Who goes first today? I go first, right?
Yeah, you go first. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to share my prediction. You guys share your predictions in the comment section, what you think is going to happen today. I'm going Bills 34, Raiders 16. I think the Bills are going to score touchdowns and the Raiders are going to kick field goals. I think it's as simple as that. I feel really confident in the way Josh Allen is playing football. He's got the hot hand. We got some of the best skill position players in the National Football League. I just think Oakland is weak in the secondary. I think the Buffalo Bills will score touchdowns. The Raiders will end up having to kick field goals. They'll move the ball on offense a little bit on us because I think that's pretty much what our scheme will be. It's to bend but don't break, and we're going to really be cognizant of Waller and of Josh Jacobs, and they'll get their yards and they'll get into scoring position. But I think once they get into scoring position, they're going to settle for field goals while we score touchdowns. So my final prediction: Bills 34, Raiders 16.
Okay, and I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I think that the Raiders will possess the ball a decent amount today. I don't think it'll be I don't think it's necessarily going to be a situation where time of possession last week kind of was really kind of skewed towards the Rams in the second half as they were moving the ball. I think it's going to be a little bit more even throughout the game for both teams. I think the clock will be moving quite a bit as the Raiders try to slow the game down, knowing that the Bills offense has been putting up points. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring total for the Bills and maybe a little bit higher for the Raiders, not by much. So I think I'm going to stick with my prediction that I had from earlier in the week and say 27-20 Bills.
All right. Last question for you. Nathan Peterman get into this game at all?
No.
No. I think he might even be inactive. I think Mariota might be back this week. I don't know. I didn't see whether they took Mariota off of injured reserve or not. They have 3 weeks. They probably didn't. It's actually probably Peterman now that I think about it. But anyway. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Make sure you come back here at 3:15. At 3:15, right around the time inactives are announced, Jay Spence and Joe Miller will take over from 3:15 to 4:15, lead you up to kickoff. But that will do it for the morning version of the pregame show. Thank you to Casey Reed, Kyle Knapp, Ab Nannini, Mitch Broder, and really everyone at Buffalo Fanatics and all of you in the comment section. We always appreciate it. This is, I think, the only pregame show on the market outside of WGR. So we appreciate you guys for joining us. We appreciate you guys for choosing us over maybe some other options you might have. We always appreciate you guys, the loyal listeners and commenters. So thank you so much. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.